Chapter 1736, Intense Battle, 1. The reason why he chose to go out late at night was that, after careful observation, he found that everyone was already asleep at this time, so it was the most convenient for him to leave. He ignored the guilt that had flashed through his mind and consoled himself. He had done all this to save Xian. Xian was his sister, and seeing her suffer these days had cut his heart like a knife. However, he knew very well that Leng Ruoxue and the others would never allow him to leave the house. Hence, he could only pretend that he did not care for the past few days and successfully made Feng De and the others let down their guard against him. After much consideration, he chose to take action tonight. However, he didn't expect to be surrounded by the monsters guarding the gate as soon as he went out. When Leng Ruoxue noticed Cheng Yi's actions, she was in the purple bamboo house inside the bracelet with the demon. The moment she realized something was wrong, she immediately brought the demon out of the bracelet. Although it had only been a few seconds, it was already too late when they came out. This was because thousands of monsters had already entered the courtyard. Furthermore, there were still countless more monsters that were trying their best to charge into the courtyard. The moment Leng Ruoxue and the demon appeared, they were surrounded. Other than that, there were also monsters running toward the room. Leng Ruoxue's heart was filled with regret when she saw this. She shouldn't have been so careless and thought that everything was under her control. She shouldn't have let down her guard against Cheng Yi. It was her mistake, but she didn't want to hurt her grandfather and the others because of her mistake. Therefore she blamed herself. It seemed that she had underestimated Cheng Yi's feelings for his sister. She didn't expect that guy to be a person who valued family. The reason why Cheng Yi could open his door and walk out on his own was also because she was too lazy. In the past, the people who lived in this house were all her own people. Therefore, in order to make it easier for them to enter and leave, she set the house so that anyone who could enter this house could enter and leave this house freely. Otherwise, they would look for her every time they entered and left this house, which would be troublesome. It was because of her laziness at that time that caused today's hidden danger. This fact made her deeply regret it. As she looked at the ferocious monsters surrounding them, Leng Ruoxue understood that a tough battle was about to be fought today. The sounds of fighting that came from nearby also let her know clearly that Feng De and the rest had already started fighting with the monsters. Just as he was thinking about this, Uncle Long ran into the yard with a steel fork in his hand and a small number of people. "Little girl, don't be afraid. Uncle Long is here," Uncle Dragon shouted. As he raised his pitchfork, the monster closest to him was crushed to pieces. However, in the blink of an eye, the crushed monster immediately came back to life. Uncle Dragon's eyes widened in disbelief. Then he stabbed the pitchfork at the monster again and quickly twisted his wrist. The monster was also crushed, but in the blink of an eye, the monster was back to life. Uncle Long didn't give up. After repeating this dozens of times, he was deeply depressed. These monsters were just like what the Xiao family had said. They couldn't be killed at all. What should he do? Even though he was depressed, Uncle Long still used his steel fork to sweep away the monsters surrounding him. While they were resurrected, he quickly led Lin Yuan and the rest into the encirclement of the monsters and gathered around Leng Ruoxue and the demon. "Little girl, are you scared by these ugly things?" After guarding Leng Ruoxue's side, Uncle Long asked with a face full of concern. His bright eyes were staring vigilantly at the monsters that surrounded them. As long as these monsters dared to come close, he would not show any mercy with his steel fork. "Thanks, I'm fine." Leng Ruoxue looked at Uncle Long, then turned her beautiful eyes to Lin Yuan and said, "Is anyone hurt?" This was what she was most concerned about. If the people around her were injured because of this, she would blame herself even more. "Miss, we're fine, but the captain and the others aren't as lucky as us. They're still fighting the monsters that broke into their rooms. We're worried about you, so we're here to help you," Lin Yuan explained. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, Leng Ruoxue was relieved. It was good that no one was injured. However, how were they going to deal with these monsters? According to Green Vessel's appraisal, these monsters were all made of flesh and blood. Although most of them were not very strong, just the fact that they could resurrect infinitely was enough to give people a headache. At this time, the voice of the man in black came from outside the door again. "Ha! Enjoy the feast I've prepared for you. I'll take care of this brother and sister for you." The man in black laughed proudly. Hearing the man in black's words, Lung Ruoxue knew that Ching Yi had also fallen into his hands. Although she was a little angry at Ching Yi for acting on his own initiative, she couldn't bring herself to hate that man. Although he had caused them to have to face the siege of these monsters, from Ching Yi's point of view, he wasn't in the wrong. However, for the sake of Cheng Xian, he had put all of them in such a dangerous situation. This was something that she could never forgive. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue calmly provoked, "What kind of skill is it to send these unkillable monsters in? If you have the ability, come in yourself. I'll go in by myself? This is your divine tool. If I go in, won't I fall into your trap and be forced to do whatever you want? I'm not that stupid. Besides, goading me won't work. I won't be fooled." The man in black said matter-of-factly. Any cultivator would know that it was quite dangerous to enter a divine weapon with an owner. The owner of the divine weapon could even manipulate them at will. So, how could he enter this house? Moreover, they were enemies. However, if you cancel the ownership and give this house to me, I can enter without hesitation. Ha! The man in black added. After he finished, he laughed wildly again. Did a donkey kick your head? Lung Ruoxue was rendered speechless by the man in black's wild imagination. She could not help but mock him loudly. However, after she finished speaking, she suddenly recalled that there was no such animal as a donkey in the god world. Donkey? What's a donkey? As expected, the man in black had a look of confusion on his face. However, for these words to come out of Lung Ruoxue's mouth, he did not need to think to know that it was not anything good. "The donkey is your ancestor," Lung Ruoxue said in an unpleasant tone. When Lin Yuan and the rest heard their miswords, they couldn't help but laugh wildly. "Ha! So you're a donkey grandson." Lin Yuan spoke very loudly, afraid that the black-clothed man outside the door could not hear him. "Damn it! I won't let you off." When the man in black outside the door heard this, he immediately flew into a rage out of embarrassment. However, out of caution, he still stayed outside the door. However, the number of monsters that rushed into the house increased, and the door was completely blocked. Even so, the monsters still tried their best to squeeze into the courtyard, even if the courtyard was already full of monsters. Chapter 1737, Intense Battle, 2. Don't just talk with your mouth, come in if you have the ability. Lin Yuan also provoked. Even if I don't go in, I'll still be able to take care of you. The man in black said confidently. After he finished speaking, he took out a silver whistle from his collar and blew it. The monsters in the courtyard started to move when they heard the whistle. After raising their heads and roaring a few times, they all started to attack Lung Ruoxue and the others in excitement. Seeing the monsters suddenly become even more excited, Lung Ruoxue knew that the whistle had taken effect. In an instant, a sword as thin as a cicada's wing and exuding a cold chill appeared in her hand. With a slight twist of her wrist, tens of thousands of fiery red cold glints shot out in all directions. Those cold glints were like shooting stars or phoenix feathers, beautiful and extremely dazzling. When the cold glints hit the monsters' bodies, many of them let out howls of pain. Awu! With their painful roars, their bodies were set on fire. In the blink of an eye, the monsters hit by the cold light were turned into ashes. After waiting for a few minutes, the monsters that had been turned into ashes were resurrected. However, their auras were much weaker after being resurrected, and their strength had decreased. Seeing this, Uncle Dragon quickly shouted, "They're afraid of fire. Those with fire attributes, attack them with fire. You must exterminate them." Lin Yuan and the others heard Uncle Long's words and personally witnessed the damage their Miss Meteor Sword Shower caused to the monsters. They also used all their skills and infused their own fire attribute divine power into their weapons, attacking the monsters along with the divine skill. In an instant, flames soared into the sky and a strong fire attribute aura floated in the courtyard. The monsters that were attacked saw that their bodies were on fire. Other than letting out a few howls, they did not turn into ashes like when they were attacked by Lung Ruoxue. Instead, they smacked out the flames on their bodies and pounced towards Lin Yuan and the rest with an angry aura. "Miss, our flames are useless against them." Lin Yuan, who nimbly dodged a monster's attack, took advantage of the gap and said gloomily, "Little girl, it seems like only your flames can harm them." Uncle Long was dumbfounded by the scene. Then he sent a message to Lung Ruoxue, "Little girl, let's keep those monsters busy and distract them. Quickly use your fire attribute skills to destroy them. If it doesn't work, burn them a few more times. We can't let them resurrect again, or else we'll die of exhaustion from just fighting them." Lung Ruoxue nodded her head without a change in her expression. In her heart, she was quickly communicating with Qing Ju. "Sister, just use your natal divine flame. I don't believe that they'll be able to come back to life after being burned by your natal divine flame." Qing Ju did not believe this. Although his sister's life flame had not completely evolved into the chaos flame, the power of that flame was already not to be underestimated. It should be known that the chaos flame was the top flame that could purify all evil in the world. Under the burning of the chaos flame, no living creature could survive. He believed that no matter how mysterious these monsters were, they would not be able to escape the chaos flame, even if his sister's flame had not truly evolved into the chaos flame. "All right." Lung Ruoxue nodded her head. Previously, she had not added her own flames into meteor sword technique. Now, she would be able to test the might of the meteor sword technique that had been infused with her flames. Although she hadn't used the meteor sword technique for a long time, she liked it very much. The main reason was that when she used it, it was unbelievably beautiful. The meteors were like stars in the sky, and the brilliant brilliance was even more difficult to guard against. In her opinion, the meteor sword technique was more suitable for group attacks, especially when the enemy was these monsters. She didn't have to worry about hurting the innocent. Therefore, she didn't feel any pressure when she used it. Thanks as he waved his meteor sword technique, which was infused with his natal flame, a more dazzling flame than before leaped into the air. The flame was red with a hint of purple, and it contained a trace of heart-palpitating pressure. When Uncle Long saw the scorching flame for the first time, his expression froze as if he had thought of something, but he returned to normal immediately. After the flames appeared, the monsters couldn't help but feel a trace of instinctive fear deep in their hearts. This fear even made them have the urge to escape. However, before they could move, thousands of dazzling meteors arrived in front of them. The extremely high temperature directly scorched the monsters' hair. Then the meteor flames hit them. In the next second, the monsters that were affected by the meteor were all reduced to ashes. They didn't even have time to let out a howl. After waiting for a while, they did not resurrect again. This fact made Uncle Long and the others heave a sigh of relief. The monsters that were still alive looked at Lung Ruoxue with fear in their eyes. Then they covered their heads and fled like rats. Instantly, the courtyard was in chaos. Lin Yuan and the rest naturally would not let go of this opportunity to beat the dog while it was down. They waved their weapons and killed the monsters that ran to their side one by one. They resurrected and killed them again. In short, they could not let them run away. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue took this opportunity to take care of most of the monsters that ran into the courtyard. As the number of monsters in the courtyard decreased, some of them managed to escape. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes scanned the courtyard and said to Uncle Long and the others, "Uncle Long, please take them to meet Feng Da and the others. They'll go to the door to take a look." With that, Lung Ruoxue and the demon walked towards the door. At this moment, the monsters at the gate were panicking and fighting to be the first to run out of the gate. The men in black, who did not know what was going on, had big question marks on their faces. "What are you guys doing? Damn it. Who told you to run out like stray dogs? Go back and kill them." The man in black ordered, but at this moment, the monsters who were still in fear did not listen to him at all. Moreover, as the monsters secretly communicated with each other, the many monsters who accompanied the man in black outside the door also knew that there was a terrifying woman in the house who could take their lives. In an instant, the monsters were all in a panic. Looking at the monsters' reactions, the man in black was confused. Even he could not control these monsters that were panicking like headless flies. Damn it! What was going on? It was only when he saw an outstanding couple walking out of the house that he realized. So they were the ones behind this. What did you do? The man in black was hot-headed as he questioned her. At this moment, he had even forgotten about his enmity with Lung Ruoxue. He had never thought that these two people would be able to escape from the monster's encirclement so easily and even come to him. Now, he just wanted to know what the monster's reaction was. I should be the one asking that. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Chapter 1738, Intense Battle, 3. That beautiful smile dazzled the eyes of the black-robed man in front of him, causing him to be in a trance for a moment. Seeing this, the demon was not happy. Without moving his expression, a black divine force as thin as a hair flowed out from his finger and went straight towards the black-robed man. The man in black didn't notice it at all. He only stared at Lung Ruoxue in a daze. It was only when he felt a pain in his waist and abdomen that he suddenly came back to his senses. Damn it! How could he be distracted at this time? The man in black was extremely annoyed. Then he looked at Lung Ruoxue and the demon with extreme vigilance. After he came back to his senses, he clearly saw the fear of the monsters around him toward the two people. Only then did he realize how the two of them had escaped from the heavy siege of the monsters. This was truly too inconceivable. Could it be that they had some extraordinary means? At the thought of this, he grabbed Ching-yi and his sister into his hands and was prepared to use them as bargaining chips to threaten Lung Ruoxue and the rest. Save me! Hurry and save us! Cheng Xian, who was being held hostage, saw that Lung Ruoxue was completely unscathed, and the flames of jealousy in her heart burned even more fiercely. However, she still needed Lung Ruoxue to save her life, so she could only hide her jealousy in the bottom of her heart. When Cheng-yi saw Lung Ruoxue, he lowered his head in shame. He was too embarrassed to ask for help. If it wasn't for him, Lung Ruoxue and the others wouldn't have been surrounded by the monsters. If it wasn't for him making the decision on his own, he wouldn't have fallen into the hands of the man in black and become a hostage. He wasn't sure what was going on in the house, but the thought of someone dying because of his selfishness made him feel guilty. Lung Ruoxue observed the siblings' completely different reactions without batting an eyelid. She laughed disdainfully in her heart. Cheng Xian-er's reaction was within her expectations, but Cheng-yi? What's the use of putting on a guilty look? If her flame had not become the nemesis of those monsters, she was afraid that they would have ended up like the Chung siblings and become the prisoners of the black-clothed man. Therefore, although she did not hate Ching-yi, it was impossible for her to forgive him and even pretend that nothing had happened. However, she would spare his life for the sake of the Chung family's head. Let them go and he'll let you live. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue finally spoke. However, her words were like a joke to the man in black. Ha! I didn't hear wrong, did I? You actually want to give me a way out? Don't you forget whose territory you're standing on right now? The man in black laughed maniacally, then mimicked Lung Ruoxue's tone. Hand over this house and I'll let you live. We don't need you to give us a way out, Lung Ruoxue said with a smile that was not a smile. Now that she knew that her flames could kill these monsters and even prevent them from being revived, these monsters naturally posed no threat to them, let alone this man in black who only had the strength of a god king. You better not regret this. Lung Ruoxue's answer almost caused the man in black to lose his focus again. He subconsciously tightened his grip on the Chung siblings in his hands. Don't worry. I won't regret this. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Thanks. Oh really? What about the two people in my hands? The man in black said proudly. It was great to have a hostage now. What happened to them? Lung Ruoxue played dumb. She couldn't help but sneer in her heart. Did this man in black think that she would compromise with these two as hostages? This pair of brother and sister didn't have that much weight in her heart. As long as you hand over the house, I'll let them go. Otherwise, they can only die. The man in black threatened. You think they're worth the price of my house? Let me tell you the truth. I'm not related to them. Do you think I'd trade this priceless house for them for two strangers? I want pay for their mistakes. So, if you really want to threaten me, You'd better think of a better reason and get a hostage with some weight. Otherwise, I'll be a waste of time. Lung Ruoxue suggested out of the kindness of her heart, and her words caused Qing Xian to fly into a rage out of humiliation. Leave him to die? Why should I save you? I didn't agree to go down to the valley back then, but who was the one who insisted on going down despite the obstruction? And who opened the door and let those monsters in? What did a certain someone say when he reached the bottom of the valley? If I get something good, don't fight with me. What did I say back then? Miss Qing, do you still remember? I said, if you get something good, we won't fight with you, but if you encounter danger, don't expect us to save you. I was right, wasn't I? Lung Shui, how can you be so heartless? We're acquaintances after all, how can you leave us in the lurch? After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Qing Xian questioned her with a face full of grief and anger. On the other hand, the black-robed man who was holding her revealed a trace of pride on his face, and secretly thought, as expected of the daughter of a large family. Look at this eloquent and inexplicably disappointed little face. Those who don't know would think that she is really miserable. In reality, he agreed with Lung Ruoxue's words. Leave him to die? Why should I save you? I didn't agree to go down to the valley back then, but who was the one who insisted on going down despite the obstruction? And who opened the door and let those monsters in? What did a certain someone say when he reached the bottom of the valley? If I get something good, don't fight with me. What did I say back then? Miss Qing, do you still remember? I said, if you get something good, we won't fight with you, but if you encounter danger, don't expect us to save you. I was right, wasn't I? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Now that Miss Qing is in trouble, if we don't save her, we'll be leaving her in the lurch. But what if you find the treasure? Will you share it with us? And Qingyi, did you think about our safety before you went out? Don't tell me you're trying to save your sister. I don't blame you for wanting to save my sister, but the price you paid for saving my sister was almost causing us to lose our lives. Now you think we still have an obligation to save you? I'm not a saint. It's already good enough that I didn't take revenge on you, and you still want me to save you? And you want me to use this house to exchange for you? This is simply a fool's dream. Lung Ruoxue continued. Her words made Qingyi feel even more ashamed. He really did not have the face to ask them to save him, because when he opened the door of the house and left, he did not think about what they would do. He only wanted to save Xian, so he had no right to ask her to do anything for him. Although Qingyi thought this way, Qing Xian's thoughts were the complete opposite. In Qing Xian's heart, she was in trouble. No matter what the reason was, the other party should save her. If he didn't save her, then it would be his fault. She wouldn't think about the cause of the incident. She only knew that it was natural for the other party to save her. After all, she was a direct young lady of the Qing family. It could be said that Qing Xian's thoughts were not only self-righteous, but also quite arrogant. Of course, this was largely determined by her personality. Personality determined one's fate. This saying was indeed true. After Lung Ruoxue's words, Qing Xian shamelessly quibbled, that was then and this is now. I did say those words, but I didn't expect to be caught back then, so those words can't be counted on. Moreover, we are from the Qing family, saving us will only be good for you, no harm. You must know that many people would love to curry favor with us, so you must cherish this opportunity. Chapter 1739. Intense Battle. For Qing Xian's words were grand and majestic. Lung Ruoxue should have been angry after hearing them, but instead, it made her laugh. Ha! Miss Qing is indeed a young lady of a big family. You're so good at shamelessly saying such things. This little girl is really in awe. Lung Ruoxue sighed. Actually, after knowing that those monsters were afraid of her flames, it wasn't difficult for her to save Qing Xian. However, Qing Xian's words and actions were simply too infuriating, causing her to lose all intention of saving her. Furthermore, she was afraid that even if she saved her, she wouldn't be able to do well. In fact, Qing Xian might even think that it was only natural for her to do so, and that she was the one who wanted to curry favor with the Qing clan's young miss. Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue felt a little conflicted. This Qing Xian wasn't her friend, And she was so annoying. If she really saved Cheng Xian, she was afraid that her heart would be filled with panic. However, she wouldn't deliberately try to kill Cheng Xian. Forget it, let's just leave it to fate. She wouldn't take the initiative to save Cheng Xian. If Cheng Xian's life was strong enough to last until they exterminated all these enemies, then she wouldn't die. Thus, they could only count on Cheng Xian and her sister's luck. I'm telling the truth. Cheng Xian roared in anger. I'm not interested in whether it's true or not. Leng Ruoxue said coldly. Following that, she turned her gaze to the man in black and said, "You've seen Miss Cheng's performance. Do you still think that he'll use this house to exchange for the siblings? You're really not afraid that he'll kill them?" The man in black asked, unwilling to give up. However, he was thinking to himself that it would be useless to threaten the other party with these worthless siblings. How did this happen? He was extremely disappointed. Whatever you want. I'm not a member of the Chung family, so I naturally don't care about their lives. Leng Ruoxue said heartlessly. If that's the case, I'll kill them now. The man in black shouted fiercely. However, after he finished speaking, he saw that Leng Ruoxue didn't even bat an eye. Seeing this, he was even more disappointed. With a thought, a long knife appeared in his hand. The cold blade was already close to Cheng Xian's tender neck in the next second. He'd make his first move on this woman. It's all this woman's fault. Don't kill me. Young Master Big Brother, save me. The cold blade pressed against the skin of her neck, and the fear of death crept into Cheng Xian's heart. She immediately screamed out in fear, but this time, she called out Young Master Big Brother. Leng Ruoxue was not willing to save her, but Big Brother Young Master would definitely save her. After all, they were all blood-related members of the Cheng family. Big Brother Young Master would definitely not leave her in the lurch. After thinking about this, she cried out even louder. Big Brother Young Master, quickly come and save me. Cheng Xian's hoarse voice was in stark contrast to her pale and weak face. Don't quarrel. The man in black roared impatiently. He pushed the blade in slightly, and in the blink of an eye, a stream of red blood flowed down the blade. Thanks, Arg. Don't kill me. I don't want to die. Young Master Big Brother, save me. Cheng Xian screamed in fear. She knew that if this black-robed man said he would kill her, he would definitely kill her. This was because this black-robed man had long disliked her. However, she didn't want to die. At the thought of this, she struggled violently. However, the more she struggled, the deeper the blade went into her tender neck, and more red blood flowed out from her pale neck. Fuck. I said not to argue. The black-robed man's patience was exhausted. He pulled back the knife in his hand and directly stabbed it into Cheng Xian's abdomen. In an instant, Cheng Xian didn't even have time to cry out before her body softly fell to the ground. Xian. Seeing this, Cheng Yi's bloodshot eyes looked like they were about to crack as he screamed in pain. You siblings can reunite in hell. The man in black said angrily. People who had no value were not worthy of living in this world. So, he sent the siblings on their way. After saying that, the black-robed man sent a palm strike towards Cheng Yi's dantian, shattering all of his internal organs. Cheng Yi's eyes widened in disbelief, and he fell to the ground beside Cheng Xian. It's your turn next. After killing the Cheng siblings, the man in black shifted his gaze to Leng Ruoxue and the evil demon. Is that so? Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly as if she had heard a great joke. I'll let you know what we can do. The man in black said confidently. Then he gave an order to the monsters, kill them. Don't leave a single one of them alive. However, after he said that, the monsters only looked at each other. No one dared to move, and the fear in their turbid eyes became more and more obvious. Damn it! Do you dare to disobey my orders? The man in black was furious. These monsters had always been very obedient, but now they didn't respond to his words. It was preposterous. He didn't understand the logic behind it, but in front of Leng Ruoxue and the others, these monsters ignored his orders. This made him lose a lot of face, and it also caused the anger in his heart to burst out. The man in black realized that direct orders were useless against these monsters, so he had no choice but to take out his trump card. which was the silver whistle. This was the best weapon to control them. After the whistle was blown, the monsters on the scene instinctively started to roar at the sky again. They were ready to move, but the fear in their hearts could not make them charge around like before. However, with the whistle they could not fight back. Tutu. Seeing that the monsters were not so obedient, the man in black blew the whistle again. Chapter 1740. A Scourge Lives for 1,000 Years. 1. This time, the whistle was loud and sharp, completely different from the previous ones. When the monsters heard the whistle, they immediately went crazy. Their eyes turned blood red and a ruthless aura exploded from their eyes. They looked at Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer with a murderous look. In the next second, the monsters surrounded them. Lung Ruoxue's eyes flashed with understanding as she looked at the monsters surrounding them. She knew that the whistle had caused these monsters to lose their minds. They had gone mad and were now a group of fighting machines that were not afraid of death. Their target was her and the demon. Shue, be careful. The demon reminded them softly. His eyes that were as bright as the stars were vigilantly staring at the monsters that surrounded them. Evildoer, there are so many monsters here. I wonder if the two of us can handle them. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of worry as she pretended to be afraid. Ha! You're all going to die today. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the man in black rushed to reply. The expression on his face became more and more smug. Is that so? Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. What an arrogant fellow. However, this was good. She liked stupid opponents like this. It didn't take too much effort to deal with them. Of course. The man in black was extremely pleased with himself. He looked at Lung Ruoxue with a pitiful gaze and said, "If you surrender and hand over the house, I might let you live. Otherwise, you're dead." Really? Lung Ruoxue asked with a look of disbelief. Of course, as long as you surrender. The man in black nodded. But I don't believe you. What should I do? Furthermore, I have no intention of surrendering. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be in a difficult position. You dare to play with me? The man in black was furious. This damn woman actually played him like a monkey. How preposterous. Since there was a way to heaven, but you didn't take it, and there was no door to hell, but you insisted on coming in, then don't blame him for not knowing how to be tender to women. After the man in black had made up his mind, he blew the attack whistle again. Instantly, the monsters that had surrounded Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer began their ferocious attack. These monsters had completely lost their rationality. Pain and fear had long since left them. Even though the flames on Lung Ruoxue's hands would still cause them irreparable damage, they no longer had any fear in their hearts. The only thought in their minds was to attack. He had to exterminate these humans, because that was the most important mission in their lives. These monsters that did not care about pain and had no fear in their hearts gave Lung Ruoxue and the demon a headache. The two of them stood back to back and used their divine skills to attack the monsters in front of them. At the same time, they also had to split a part of their attention to pay attention to the black-robed man's every move. When the black-robed man saw the red and purple flames from Lung Ruoxue's hands, his eyes narrowed. He understood what was going on. No wonder those monsters were so afraid. The flames in this woman's hands were so powerful. What kind of flames were those? His curiosity was piqued. Those monsters were immortal monsters created by his lord. They could resurrect infinitely. However, after being attacked by the woman, they could no longer survive. This fact made him extremely frightened. As he watched the monsters decrease little by little, he had a bad feeling in his heart. If this continued, these monsters would be killed by this woman. What was this good? The man in black was getting anxious. While Lung Ruoxue and the demon were busy dealing with the monster, he quickly shot a ray of black divine power at Lung Ruoxue. Thanks, little girl. Be careful. Uncle Long, who was rushing towards the door, immediately warned the man in black when he saw the sneak attack. He then increased his speed and ran towards Lung Ruoxue. However, before Uncle Long could get close, the demon quickly released his divine power. The two black divine powers instantly entangled with each other. Then, the demon turned his gaze towards the black-robed man. "Little brat, leave this guy to me." Uncle Long, who had rushed to the side of the two, half squinted his eyes and said with a smile that was not a smile. He actually sneak attacked the little girl. How preposterous! After saying that, Uncle Long held the steel fork and stabbed it at the man in black. Seeing this, the demon continued to fight the monsters beside him. Not long after, Feng Da and the others also ran out of the yard and fought with the monsters. Although they couldn't kill the monsters, they could distract them and reduce the pressure on the Mississippi. With Feng Da and the rest holding the monsters back, Lung Ruoxue was able to use her meteor sword technique more efficiently. She injected even more of her natal flames into her sword. In an instant, a burning cloud of fire floated in the air. The scorching temperature made everyone feel as if they were in a furnace. Following that, they smelled a burning smell. Then, thousands of fiery meteors rained down on the monsters from all directions. Wherever the fire meteor shower went, a sea of fire would be set ablaze. Although Feng Da and the others were still some distance away from the sea of fire, they could not withstand the scorching temperature. They immediately gave up on fighting the monsters and jumped out of the battle. This great ant's fire is really powerful. Cheng Xian, who was drenched in sweat, wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, unable to take it anymore. "If I'm not strong, how can I kill these monsters?" Feng Da rolled his eyes at Cheng Xian and said angrily. In fact, he was purely venting his anger. After all, Cheng Yi, who caused them to fight these monsters, was also a member of the Cheng family. If Cheng Yi had not opened the door, they would not have had to face these monsters head-on, so he put all the blame on Cheng Xian. Cheng Xian didn't know what to say. Feng Da seemed to have something against him. Poor him, he still didn't know that he was someone else's scapegoat. "What's with If you do, I'll throw you into the river to feed the fish." Feng Da glared at Cheng Xian. Hearing these familiar words, Cheng Xian wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and thought to himself, "You and that fish are really a family. You learn really fast." Although he knew that Feng Da wouldn't really throw him into the river to feed the fish, he didn't know why Feng Da was in a bad mood, so he decided not to provoke them at this time. Otherwise, he would be the one in trouble. He was the disadvantaged group. He was living under someone else's roof again. I'm fighting those monsters alone. Isn't it bad for us to watch from the side? Cheng Xian thought for a moment and changed the topic. Who said that Miss is alone? Don't you see that Leader Yi is also killing those monsters? When Lin Yuan heard this, he could not help but ask. What I mean is, should we go and help? Cheng Xian sighed and said helplessly. Who said that he didn't see it? However, that evil man wasn't really fighting the monsters, but he was preventing them from disturbing his great aunt, just like what they had done before. However, they couldn't stand the high temperature of the flames, so they had to leave the battlefield. Thinking of this, he was so impressed by the evil man that he could actually stand such a hot temperature. Chapter 1741. A Scourge Lives for 1,000 Years. 2. Help? Was he not helping? Just stay here obediently. Keep your eyes wide open and don't let those monsters get close to Miss. Otherwise, if they hurt Miss, Leader Yi will go crazy. Feng Da said with a hint of disdain and reminded him. Then I'll go and help Uncle Long. Cheng Xian mumbled in a low voice. Uncle Long's opponent was a human, so he had no pressure dealing with him. If you want to go, go. No one's stopping you. Feng Da said with a smirk. He couldn't help but think to himself, why would Uncle Long need your help? It's really unnecessary. Besides, he's sure that Cheng Xian will definitely be scolded if he goes. Then I'll go. Cheng Xian said quickly. He really didn't want to be looked at with contempt by Feng Da and the others. That would make him feel like he had a mountain of pear blossoms on his back. After saying that, Cheng Xian ran toward Uncle Long as if he was running for his life. He shouted, Uncle Long, I'll help you. Uncle Long, who was playing with the man in black, immediately pulled a long face when he saw Cheng Xian suddenly join the battle. He thought to himself unhappily, why is this brat here to cause trouble instead of just watching from the side? However, before he could speak, the man in black spoke first. What's wrong? Are you trying to bully me with your numbers? The man in black said with slight disdain after seeing Cheng Xian. Using numbers to bully the few? Do you think I need to bully you with numbers? Uncle Long couldn't help but ask. When he was fighting with the man in black, he had been trying to find out more about him, so he hadn't used his full strength. Now that Cheng Xian had suddenly joined the battle, the man in black had misunderstood him as bullying him with numbers. How preposterous! Wasn't this the case of the wicked complaining first? Aren't you guys using your numbers to bully the few now? The man in black told the truth. Oh really? I don't think so. Uncle Long asked in confusion. There are two of you and I'm alone. How dare you say I'm not bullying you with numbers? The man in black was a little angry. This middle-aged man alone was already hard enough to deal with. Now, there was another guy who was stronger than him. How could he fight? You're wrong. You're not alone, they're all your helpers. Uncle Long looked at the man in black, then pointed at the monsters. That's right. If we're talking about numbers, you're the one who's bullying us. Cheng Xian smiled and agreed. The man in black was speechless. He admitted that he had quite a number of monsters on his side. However, those monsters had been sent out to deal with Lung Ruoxue. How would they have the chance to help him? Furthermore, those monsters had completely lost their minds. Other than knowing that Lung Ruoxue was their enemy, their minds could not take in any other commands. Naturally, they would not listen to his summoning either. Who asked him to use his trump card earlier? He could only use his trump card once a day, so he no longer had the chance to make the monsters listen to his command. Thinking of this, he was filled with regret. What about us? Uncle Long, you should rest for a while. Leave this black-clothed man to me. Cheng Xian said with a smile. You little brat. You want to snatch her from me? Uncle Long glared at him and said unhappily. He had finally met a normal human, but this Cheng family's kid still wanted to snatch him away. He really didn't know how to respect the elderly. No, I'm just afraid that you'll be too tired. Cheng Xian, who felt a chill down his spine, quickly said, Thanks, I'm not tired of dealing with such a small thief kid. Go play in the mud, be good. Uncle Long coaxed. After that, he kicked Cheng Xian out of the battle circle between him and the man in black. Then, he started to tease the man in black. Cheng Xian, who had almost fallen to the ground, was so depressed that his facial features were twisted together after hearing Uncle Long's words. He's already so old, but he's still being asked to play in the mud. This is too much. He doesn't even know how to use a better reason to coax me. Cheng Xian returned to Feng De's side, full of dissatisfaction and grievances. Young Master Cheng. There's mud over there, you can go play. Feng De pointed to a small corner with a smile. The crowd burst into laughter. Cheng Xian's face flushed red, and he gritted his teeth as he glared at Feng De. He didn't dare to mess with Uncle Long, but did that mean he didn't dare to mess with Feng De? Thinking about it, he really didn't dare to offend Feng De because this guy was Lung Ruoxue's man. If he offended him, Great Aunt would definitely not let him off. Why was he so pitiful? Not only was there no one to dote on or love him, but he was also bullied by these people everywhere. The more Cheng Xian thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. Slowly, his eyes actually turned red, and tears began to well up in his eyes. Feng De and the others were surprised to see him like this. Young Master Cheng, are you going to cry? Of course not. Why do I feel like crying? Cheng Xian said, a little embarrassed. He had only said it on a whim. As a man, it was impossible for him to not be able to take such a small blow. It's good that you don't want to cry. Otherwise, we'll have to spend a lot of effort to coax you. You're not a weak little white flower, we really don't want to coax you. Feng De said with relief. You want to coax a weak little white flower? Cheng Xian rolled his eyes and said in a speechless manner. Of course, which man doesn't like to have tender feelings for women? Feng De said matter-of-factly, not noticing that there was something wrong with Cheng Xian's question. After he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a cold breeze behind him, and then he heard a strange voice behind him. So you like to have tender and protective feelings for women? He liked weak little white flowers. I've known you for so long, but I only found out today. Lu Tao's face was black as she stood behind Feng De and said coldly, Arg. Tao, you've misunderstood. I don't like little white flowers, and I don't like to have tender feelings for women. If I have to pity someone, I'll only pity you. Hearing this unfriendly tone, Feng De quickly turned around and glared at Cheng Xian, who was laughing very happily, with hatred in his heart. That hateful guy, he actually dared to trick him and caused his Tao to misunderstand. So, women are scary when they're jealous. What should I do? Feng De was in a daze. He peeked at Lu Tao uneasily like a little wife. His hands kept twisting the corners of his clothes, and cold sweat kept dripping down his body. I'm dead for sure this time. He did not know how Tao would punish him. He felt very uneasy. Don't be talkative. Miss always said that if a man's words could be trusted, even a sow could climb a tree. I think he was talking about you. Besides, even if you have any dirty thoughts in your hearts, can't you see what time it is now? Miss is fighting those monsters to death for us. You guys actually still have the time to joke around here. I think you've really had enough of living. You should really let those monsters eat all of you men, so that you won't harm women in the future. In her anger, Lu Tao overturned the entire boat, including all the men. When Ning Haolan and the others, who had been shot innocently, heard Lu Tao's words, they all looked at Feng De with resentment. The meaning on their faces was obvious. You're the one who caused this trouble, so you have to settle it yourself. Chapter 1742. A Scourge Lives for 1,000 Years. 3. Tao. Feng De looked at Green Peach with a pitiful expression. You're on your own. Lu Tao didn't give Feng De a good look. After she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Feng De saw this and quickly chased after him. AI. Poor captain. He's going to have a hard time this time. Lin Yuan looked at Feng De's back and said with a little sympathy. The few maidservants beside the young lady, except for Cui Zhu, were more difficult to deal with than the other, especially Grape and Green Peach. They were two tigresses and they did not dare to provoke them easily. However, the captain's slip of the tongue had caused eternal hatred. This time, Green Peach would not know how to torture the captain. However, the main culprit seems to be someone else. At this thought, he turned his gaze to Cheng Xian. Why are you looking at me like that? Cheng Xian, who was being stared at until his hair stood on end, said fearfully. It's nothing. I'm just thinking, if Captain is unlucky, will you have a good life? To tell you the truth, we're all very vengeful. Lin Yuan kindly reminded. Then what do we do? Hearing this, Cheng Xian was a little scared. Cold. I wish you good luck. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he ignored Cheng Xian. The poor young master of the Cheng family was frightened by Lin Yuan's words and had been in a state of fear and trepidation. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue was getting more and more comfortable dealing with the monsters. As the number of monsters around her decreased, Leng Ruoxue actually felt that it wasn't satisfying enough anymore. Furthermore, she had discovered the most energy-saving method to deal with these monsters. She would first lure these monsters together, then close the door and beat the dogs up. After she sent a voice transmission to the demon complied with her request and chased the monsters in one direction so that it would be easier for Leng Ruoxue to exterminate them. When Lin Yuan and the rest saw this, they also got to work. Not long after, most of the monsters were gathered in one place. Leng Ruoxue took the opportunity to quickly increase the power of her meteor sword technique. At the same time, she poured even more of her natal flames into her sword. Following that, countless burning phoenix feathers flew towards the monsters. The monsters that didn't have the time to wail were turned into ashes. After that, Leng Ruoxue quickly released 2 fire dragons that were condensed from her divine power. The 2 fire dragons bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they danced in a circle in the air. The remaining monsters were all reduced to ashes. After taking care of all the monsters, Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes turned towards Uncle Long and the man in black, who were still in the middle of a battle. Uncle Long's strength was clearly not on the same level as the black-robed Manus. Of the 2 people fighting, Uncle Long was dealing with them very easily, while the black-robed man was already panting and out of breath. Uncle Long, stop playing. Quickly end the battle. Lung Ruoxue urged him helplessly. All right, but little girl, do you want him to live or die? Uncle Long asked as he fought. Just kill them directly. I don't need him to be alive. Lung Ruoxue said with slight disdain. Yes, sir. Uncle Long replied with a smile. Thanks. The man in black, who was busy fighting with Uncle Long, almost vomited blood when he heard their conversation. However, the next second he died under Uncle Long's steel fork without even having the time to leave a last word. After killing the man in black, Uncle Long came to Lung Ruoxue's side and said with a serious expression, Little girl, I thought you would let him live. Maybe we can get some useful information from him. There's no need. I already know most of what I need to know. Lung Ruoxue said confidently. Ever since they left the courtyard, she had arranged for Qingju to read this fellow's mind. However, this fellow did not know much, so she did not get much useful information. Really? When Uncle Long heard Lung Ruoxue's words, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. It seemed like this little girl had quite a few tricks up her sleeve. He's just a small fry, he's not of much use. Lung Ruoxue nodded. That's true. This black-clothed man's strength is truly too low. Uncle Long said, a little unsatisfied. Uncle Long, do you want to go to the bottom of the valley to take a look? Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. All right. It's also a good opportunity to see if there are any good opponents. Uncle Long agreed. You guys want to go to the bottom of the valley? At this moment, a cry of surprise rang in their ears. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest heard it, they turned around. Third Elder Chow, how's your situation? Lung Ruoxue looked at the third elder of the Seo family, who was in a sorry state, and asked with concern. Ai. It was a long story. Of the 6 elders of the Seo family, 4 are dead and 1 is seriously injured. Elder Chow San said with a sorrowful expression. He hated those monsters to death. How did this happen? Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with confusion. The elders of the Seo family were definitely stronger than those monsters. Even if they couldn't kill those monsters, they shouldn't have been killed by them. She could not understand. I don't know why, but those monsters went berserk and attacked us one by one. Those elders fought against 100 of them, but they couldn't fight them and all died. As Elder Chow Sen spoke, tears streamed down his face and he choked on his sobs. Third Elder Chow, my condolences. Lung Ruoxue consoled. She understood now. Those few elders were killed by the monsters after the frenzy. This could only mean that they were unlucky because at that time, most of the monsters were targeting her and the demon. She didn't expect that there would be monsters targeting the Cao family's elders. Ai. That's right, after you killed these monsters and black-clothed men, did you save Xian and Yi? How are they? Elder Chow San sighed heavily and asked again. He really didn't expect that Miss Lung could deal with those unkillable monsters. If he had known earlier, he would have followed her closely. It would have been better than the loss of several elders in the Seo family. He really regretted it. Those elders were equivalent to being killed by him, who asked him to have a trace of luck in his heart. They were killed by this man in black. Lung Ruoxue pointed at the man in black. He's dead. After listening to Lung Ruoxue's words, Elder Chow San was lost in thought for a moment. Then, he ran to Cheng Xian and Cheng Yi's corpses and started to wail. Oh, Xian, you all died so miserably. How am I going to explain this to the Cheng family? I can't see them, and am too ashamed to face the ancestors and ancestors of the Seo family. I'm the sinner of the Seo family. Elder Chow Sen cried as he shouted, causing Lung Ruoxue to frown. This old man really made her speechless. She didn't usually see him like this Cheng family brother and sister much, and even gave them a hard time. Now that he knew that they were dead, he cried so sadly. Those who didn't know would think that the dead were his descendants. In fact, apart from having half the Seo family's blood flowing in them, the Cheng siblings had no relationship with him at all. In that case, who was this old man showing this to? Lung Ruoxue couldn't figure it out, but they wouldn't feel much anyway. Chapter 1743, A scourge lives for 1,000 years. 4. Third Elder Chow, the dead cannot be brought back to life. My condolences to you. Even though Lung Ruoxue was disdainful of this old man's acting, she still consoled him out of goodwill. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, Third Elder Chow choked on his sobs for a while before slowly getting up. Suddenly he noticed that Cheng Xian-er's eyelids seemed to have moved. He quickly shouted, "Wait! Xian-er didn't die." "What?" When Lung Ruoxue and the rest heard this, they quickly ran to Cheng Xian-er's side and bent down to check. After checking, they found that Cheng Xian-er was still alive. Not only her, but even Cheng Yi was still breathing. However, their injuries were not light, and they were in a state of unconsciousness. With trembling hands, Third Elder Chow took out 2 healing pills and stuffed them into their mouths. After a while, the siblings slowly woke up. "Big brother, where are we now?" Cheng Xian-er couldn't help but ask as she looked at her brother. "Don't worry, you're still alive." Without waiting for Cheng Yi's reply, Lin Yuan said in a bad mood, "This is really a disaster that lasts for 1,000 years. Cheng Xian-er, this hateful woman, was actually not killed. That black-clothed man was really unprofessional." He couldn't help but feel that way in his heart. In fact, if it were anyone else in Cheng Xian-er's position, he would still sympathize with them. However, the people who had escaped from a great disaster were Cheng Xian-er and her brother. He couldn't sympathize with them no matter what. In addition, Cheng Yi had caused them to be besieged by the monsters. Therefore, in his eyes, this pair of brother and sister deserved to die. Unfortunately, they had actually managed to survive. There was an unspeakable regret in his heart, but he would not say it out loud since she had just escaped from death. At most, he would only complain a little in his heart. "Big brother, we actually didn't die," Cheng Xian-er said with a smile on her face. However, her eyes immediately caught sight of Lung Ruoxue, who was very close to her, and the anger in her heart was immediately hooked. "Lung Shui, you actually left us in the lurch. Our Cheng family will never let you off," Cheng Xian-er said, her embarrassment turning into anger. After hearing Cheng Xian-er's words, Lung Ruoxue chuckled and questioned, "Miss Cheng, when you say that you're not going to save me, do you mean that I didn't use this house to exchange for the lives of you and your sister?" "Of course." Cheng Xian-er nodded. "Miss Cheng, let's not talk about whether the man in black will really let you and your sister go after I give this house to him. I just want to know, do you think that all of our lives added together are not as valuable as you and your sister?" Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. "Thanks, of course. We're direct descendants of the Cheng family," Cheng Xian-er said matter-of-factly. So what if you're a direct descendant of the Cheng family? We still have the young masters of the Cheng and Ning families here. Could it be that their lives are not as valuable as yours?" After Lin Yuan heard Cheng Xian-er's words, he looked at her as if she was an idiot. "I didn't mean it that way. What I meant was, if Big Brother Young Master and Big Brother Lan were both present at that time, they would definitely think of ways to save us siblings." Cheng Xian-er hurriedly explained. "Miss Cheng, where do you get your confidence from?" Lin Yuan's face was filled with shock. "Isn't this what I should do?" Cheng Xian-er said in a self-righteous manner. "Miss Cheng, nothing is necessary. Since you were born in a super family, you should know the meaning of the words take the big picture into consideration. You know very well what the situation was at that time. If you think that I didn't use the house to exchange for your lives, I don't mind leaving you to die. However, what I want to say is that in my opinion, the lives of you 2 siblings are far less important than the lives of so many of us. If I had to do it again, I would still do the same. Of course, if your young master Big Brother and Big Brother Lan want to save you, I won't stop them, but I also won't care about their life or death. Also, I want to tell you that even if I hand this house over to the black-clothed man, he won't let you off. At that time, I'm afraid even we won't be able to escape from disaster, and this might be what you want." Lung Ruoxue said emotionlessly. She could be said to be cold-blooded and not help, but she had never been a saint. She was selfish. In her heart, it was enough as long as the people she valued were good. As for other irrelevant people, they were not within the scope of her concern. "How do you know that he won't let us go? Are you guys on the same side? Besides, don't wrong me, I don't want you guys to die with me. Cheng Xian furiously roared, her originally pale face turning red from anger. Miss Cheng, did I wrong you or did you wrong me? Leng Ruoxue was speechless. To think that Cheng Xian could think of something like this. She actually said that she was in cahoots with the men in black. If they were really in cahoots, she would definitely make Cheng Xian her first target. Xian, don't talk nonsense. Sensing the hostility in Leng Ruoxue's tone, Third Elder Chao immediately chided her. At this moment, no matter who was in the right or wrong, they could not afford to offend Leng Ruoxue. Otherwise, if she chased them out of the house, they would really have no way out. After reprimanding Cheng Xian, a Third Elder Chao turned to look at Leng Ruoxue and said, Miss Leng, Xian is still young and insensible. Please don't take it to heart. I'll apologize to you on her behalf, I'm sorry. Third Elder Chao said with great sincerity. As he spoke, he even bowed to Leng Ruoxue. Cheng Xian, who was at the side, saw how Third Elder Chao was bowing and scraping to Leng Ruoxue. Her heart was instantly filled with anger. However, after receiving Third Elder Chao's warning gaze, she tactfully shut her mouth. After all, she still needed this old man's protection. Otherwise, it would not be easy for her to leave this mystic realm alive. Hence, she tactfully chose to swallow her anger. Chapter 1744. You've become smarter. 1. Young and insensible? Old man, Miss Cheng might be young, but she's almost 100 years old, right? Most of us aren't even half her age. Moreover, according to her age, she's her grandmother. You really have the nerve to talk about her age. Lin Yuan sneered as he glanced at Elder Chao San, not giving him any face at all. That's right. Moreover, even if she was really young, she shouldn't be spouting nonsense. Although we are not as strong as you, we are not to be slandered by others. Grape, who was standing beside Leng Ruoxue, said angrily. Who dares to slander us? At this time, Feng De and Lu Tao walked out of the courtyard together. After hearing Grape's words, they immediately became angry and questioned her. Who else could it be? Of course, it's Miss Cheng Xian. Grape said in an unpleasant tone. Cheng Xian? Isn't she dead? Feng De's face was full of question marks when he heard this. You're the one who's dead. Feng De's words made Cheng Xian extremely angry, and she retorted without even thinking. Fuck? Are you a human or a ghost? Looking at Cheng Xian, Feng De's face was filled with fear. When the others heard Feng De's words, they couldn't help but laugh. You're the ghost. Of course I'm a human. Cheng Xian became even angrier as she heard the laughter. But weren't you killed by the men in black? Why did he come back to life again? Oh my god. This was really too terrifying. Tao Tao. I'm scared. Protect me. Feng De said exaggeratedly. After he finished speaking, he even hid behind Green Peach to seek protection with a face full of fear. A scourge lives for 1,000 years. What are you afraid of? Lu Tao glared at Feng De and said with double meaning. Tao Tao. Hearing Lu Tao's tone, Feng De knew that his dear was still angry. He immediately lowered his head, but in his heart, he kept thinking of ways to appease Lu Tao. I told you, you're not allowed to call me Tao Tao. Lu Tao said fiercely. Every time Feng De called her Tao Tao, she would think of that monkey in Yulin. She had to take advantage of this opportunity to correct this matter because she had said it many times in the past, but Feng De had always turned a blind eye to it. Tao. Feng De just said one word, and under the glare of Green Peach, he swallowed the words he had yet to finish speaking. Then, he peeked at Green Peach with the eyes of a little wife. I didn't die, and I didn't come back to life. Cheng Xian, who had been completely ignored, couldn't help but grit her teeth and say this. Oh! When Feng De heard this, he deliberately dragged out his voice, as if he was somewhat regretful. Damn it, what kind of attitude is that? Feng De's tone made Cheng Xian go crazy. What's my attitude? Didn't I just say, oh? He didn't say anything? Feng De felt a little wronged. Why did all these women like to bully him? He didn't have a face that was easy to bully. Besides, Other than his miss and his towel, no other woman could bully him. Thanks. Cheng Xian was so angry that she glared at him. Who asked her to say, oh? It was more annoying than anything else. Unfortunately, Feng De and the others did not care about her feelings at all. It's really lively. Ha! Suddenly, a loud laugh rang out in everyone's ears. Everyone quickly turned around and saw a middle-aged man in black standing at the exit of the valley. Beside him were at least hundreds of black-robed men and countless monsters. When everyone saw this, their hearts instantly sank to the bottom. How could there still be so many? Did they just poke into the monster's nest? If I'm not wrong, you must be the leader of these minions and monsters. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. The middle-aged man in front of her had unfathomable strength. There was also a hint of killing intent on his body. The feeling he gave off was quite out of place and uncomfortable. Leader? I'm their king. The middle-aged man clearly didn't like being called head and corrected him. There's no difference in my eyes. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Oh really? Little girl, you're very courageous. Unfortunately, such people usually don't live long. The middle-aged man reminded with a faint smile. His deep eyes seemed to sweep over Cheng Xian, who was sitting on the ground. Cheng Xian's heart palpitated with fear and she felt extremely guilty. Cheng Xian was a little scared when she saw the middle-aged man. What if this middle-aged man told her what she had promised him? Then Leng Ruoxue and the others would definitely not be able to tolerate her anymore. What should she do? Her mind spun quickly as she thought of a countermeasure. Right? She would say that this man forced her to do this, or else he would have killed her. Right? Just say it like this. Cheng Xian, who was staring at the middle-aged man warily, quickly came up with a reason for her actions. At the same time, she also felt relieved. That's because you haven't seen people with long lives. After a long while, Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes lightly swept over the guilty-looking Cheng Xian as she calmly smiled. You really have a sharp tongue, but I like to deal with smart people. How about we make a deal? The middle-aged man did not get angry at Leng Ruoxue's words. Instead, he spoke in an extremely friendly manner. What kind of deal? Leng Ruoxue was a little curious. Actually, she knew that this middle-aged man had been here for a while. However, he did not intend to act rashly, and she naturally did not want to alert him. Hence, she had been pretending not to know anything. Now, it seemed that this middle-aged man had a request, which was why he did not make a move immediately. I'm quite interested in your house. Give it to me and I'll let you live. How about it? The middle-aged man said. In fact, he had thought about killing these people and taking the house as his own. However, after seeing their combat power, he changed his mind. After all, he had already lost many monsters. If he used force to force them, he was afraid that both sides would be injured. This little girl's flame was too terrifying. And that Uncle Long was probably as strong as him. As for the others, he hadn't found anything special so far, but he didn't dare to take any more risks. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to bear the blame of his lord. Quickly agree to his request and give him the house. Let him send us out of here. Without waiting for Leng Ruoxue's reply, Cheng Xian impatiently shouted, Miss Cheng, this isn't your house, so it's up to me to decide if you want to give it to me. Leng Ruoxue reminded him with a cold smile. Then what are you waiting for? If we give him a house, he will let us live and we can leave this place. Moreover, this time it's not just for me. If you don't hand over the house to him, we will all lose our lives. Cheng Xian said fearfully. The moment she thought of death, her face would turn deathly pale. Furthermore, her words were also somewhat instigating. Didn't Leng Ruoxue previously say that for the sake of everyone's lives, she wouldn't use the house in exchange for her? Now, she was using the house to exchange for everyone's lives. She wanted to see if this woman would still be as cold-blooded to everyone as she was to her. Chapter 1745. You've become smarter, too. Miss Ling, third elder Chow called out softly. He wanted to say something but stopped himself. In fact, he had the same thoughts as Cheng Xian. Since he was destined not to get this house, It would be good to exchange it for their lives. However, he didn't dare to say this out loud. He wasn't as blind as Cheng Xian. He was very clear that in front of Leng Ruoxue and the others, he was the weaker party. In fact, the two remaining elders of the Xiao family still had to rely on her to take care of them. Hence, at this moment, he was extremely unwilling to make Leng Ruoxue unhappy. Do you really think he'll let us go if we give him a house? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile that was not a smile. Why did these two people look down on the house that she owned? Did they have to force her to give up the house so that they would feel better? She was helpless. Miss Leng, my words carry enormous weight. The middle-aged man interrupted. I didn't ask you. Leng Ruoxue said without giving him any face. Leng Ruoxue's words caused the middle-aged man to be angered. However, in order to obtain this house of his dreams, he had to endure. He would deal with them properly after he got the house. Didn't he say it? As long as you give him the house, he'll definitely let us go. Cheng Xian followed the middle-aged man's words and hurriedly said, It looks like Miss Cheng really believes in him. However, I don't believe him. Leng Ruoxue laughed lightly and expressed her thoughts. You tricked me. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Cheng Xian's embarrassment turned into anger. How am I playing with you? I just said that I don't trust him, so I naturally won't hand the house over to him. Leng Ruoxue said honestly. Don't tell me you want to disregard the lives of so many of us? You're really not just cold-blooded. Cheng Xian's face was filled with disappointment. Following that, she turned to Feng De and the others with a pained expression. Is this the master you acknowledged? She doesn't care about your lives at all. Do you still want to be loyal to her? Miss Cheng, we will definitely obey Miss' decision. So, since Miss doesn't believe him, we naturally won't believe him either. Moreover, this house belongs to Miss. She can give it to us if she wants to or not. Outsiders have no right to judge her. Therefore, please shut your mouth. Grape said in an unpleasant tone. You're just a maidservant. What right do you have to represent everyone? Can you represent it? Seeing that even a lowly servant girl dared to criticize her, Cheng Xian's chest felt like it was blocked by a large stone, and she was extremely depressed. It doesn't mean that. You didn't say it. You have to ask them. Grape pointed at Feng De and the others disapprovingly. Grape's words are exactly what we want to say. Miss Cheng Xian, please shut your mouth. Otherwise, we don't mind leaving you to your own devices. Feng De said, supporting Grape. After hearing this, Grape also gave Feng De an appreciative look. She's just a maidservant, and you all actually listen to her. Cheng Xian's pale face was filled with disbelief. She is young Miss Maidservant, and we are also young Miss Subordinates. Our status and identity are the same, and there is no distinction between high and low. More importantly, what she says is what we want to say, not what you think we will listen to her. Feng De said, Are you not afraid of death? If your master doesn't hand this house over to them, they will kill us. Cheng Xian's face was deathly pale as she warned. Do you think he can kill us just because he wants to? Miss Cheng, how can you boost other people's morale and diminish your own? You must know that it's a great taboo to be afraid before a battle. However, you've been pampered since young, so it's no wonder you're afraid of death. We're different, we're used to death, so we're not afraid of death. Feng De said happily. Feng De's words caused Cheng Xian to be half dead. What do you mean by dead habit? Could it be that they had died many times? Or could it be that hell was opened by their own family, and dying was like going home? Thanks Cheng Xian's expression flickered, and her mind whirred. Then she fixed her gaze on Cheng Xian. Big brother young master. You're our Cheng family's young master. Cheng Xian was racking her brains to persuade Cheng Xian to stand on her side, but before she could finish, she was interrupted by Cheng Xian. Xian, that house belongs to them, and we have no right to ask what they want to do with it. Cheng Xian said hurriedly. He peeked at Leng Ruoxue from the corner of his eyes and prayed in his heart, Great Aunt. Don't be angry with him. He and Cheng Xian were not on the same side. Ning Haolan lowered his head and chuckled when he saw Cheng Xian's cautious expression. However, his action attracted Cheng Xian-er's attention. "Brother Lan," Cheng Xian-er called out in a soft voice. "Miss Cheng, I'm just living under someone else's roof." Ning Haolan reminded him, implying that he could not do anything about this matter. "Are you not afraid of death? One of you is the young master of the Cheng family, and the other is the young master of the Ning family. If something were to happen to you, what would the Cheng and Ning families do?" Cheng Xian-er shouted in disappointment when she saw the two of them shirking. "Without them, there will be someone else from the Cheng and Ning families to be the young master. Maybe it's just nice to make room for someone else." Feng De said with a smile. "Are you hoping that they'll die?" Cheng Xian-er angrily glared at Feng De. "I'm just telling the truth. How could he hope that they would die?" "Miss Cheng, there's something wrong with your comprehension." Feng De felt wronged. His words might not be pleasant to hear, but they were the truth. "All right. Stop arguing, Miss Cheng. The majority of us have the same opinion. The minority is subordinate to the majority. I won't give them this house. If you're really so afraid of death, then just leave. I don't think they'll make things difficult for a woman like you." Lung Ruoxue suggested disapprovingly. "How do you know they won't make things difficult for me? They almost killed me." Cheng Xian-er roared madly as the fury in her eyes shot towards Lung Ruoxue. If looks could kill, Lung Ruoxue would have died 1,000,000 times over. "But they didn't kill him, did they?" Lung Ruoxue asked doubtfully. "That's because I'm useful." Cheng Xian-er roared. After shouting, she suddenly realized that she had misspoken. She immediately regretted it so much that she wanted to bite off her own tongue. "Value? I wonder what kind of value Miss Cheng has. I'm really curious." Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. "Miss Cheng, can you dispel my doubts?" Then, Lung Ruoxue looked at Cheng Xian-er and requested. Cheng Xian-er stammered, and a trace of panic flashed through her beautiful eyes. "I'll tell you." At this time, the middle-aged man who had been watching the show for a long time could not help but speak again. Chapter 1746, You've Become Smarter. 3. You shut up. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Cheng Xian-er immediately roared. "How dare you? You actually dare to shout at me? Don't tell me you've forgotten how you knelt before me and begged me not to kill you? Did you forget that you were the one who volunteered to be a hostage to lure your brother into opening the door and letting those monsters in? Don't tell me you've forgotten that it was you who told me that this little girl has a spatial divine artifact that can allow people to live in, and that she wanted to use it to exchange for her life? Don't tell me you've forgotten." The middle-aged man calmly explained everything. With every point he said, Cheng Xian-er's face became paler and paler, and the faces of everyone else present also became uglier. However, this was the result he wanted. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, Feng De and the rest's faces turned black. Feng De shot forward and grabbed Cheng Xian-er in his hands. "What a good Miss Cheng. In order to survive, you betrayed us. Unfortunately, your wishful thinking is wrong. All of us are alive and well, except for the Seo family." Feng De's words made Elder Chao's anger burn even more. He never dreamed that Cheng Xian-er was the one who willingly became a hostage. She even caused the deaths of several elders of the Seo family. How could he accept this fact? Elder Chao-san was filled with anger as he walked forward and pulled Cheng Xian-er out of Feng De's hands. Then, a pa-pa sound could be heard. In the blink of an eye, Cheng Xian-er's beautiful face had become as swollen as a pig's head. When the weak Cheng Yi saw this, although he couldn't bear it, he still turned his head without saying a word. At this time, the regret in his heart could not be described by words. If he had known that Xian-er was willing to be a hostage and wanted to use it to threaten them, he would definitely not have left. However, what was the use of thinking about this now? The mistake had been made and there was no way to redeem it. He had also become a cripple. This was really karma. He secretly cried. Third grandpa, don't hit me. Ooh, I didn't want to do this, they forced me to do this. If I didn't agree, they would have killed me. I don't want to die." Cheng Xian-er sobbed and begged. She was already dizzy from the beating, and there was a sweet taste in her mouth. The swelling on her cheek tormented her senses, and tears gushed out of her eyes like a fountain. When Cheng Xian'o was being beaten up, neither Leng Ruoxia's group nor the middle-aged man's men had any intention of interfering. After all, this was their family matter. However, Leng Ruoxia and the rest were too lazy to care. As for the middle-aged man's side, they were merely watching the show. She still dared to shout at him when she didn't complete her task. If he didn't teach this kind of person a lesson, she wouldn't even know her own name. The middle-aged man secretly thought to himself. It was undeniable that he had deliberately said the matter of Cheng Xian. This was also to punish Cheng Xian for not doing her job well and causing him to lose so many monsters. More importantly, Cheng Xian no longer had any value in his eyes. Her words had no weight in front of that little girl, and she was once his prisoner. If such a person was allowed to live, wouldn't it make her look incompetent? Thus, Cheng Xian's fate was a tragedy. Everything she wanted to hide was exposed to the eyes of the middle-aged man. It was as if a piece of cloth had been pulled off, and she could no longer hide it. As for Cheng Xian's fate, it was not within the scope of the middle-aged man's concern. After a long time, Chao San's elder was finally tired from the beating, and Cheng Xian, who was swollen like a pig's head, fainted again. However, no one cared about her life or death. As for Leng Ruoxia and the rest, they started to stare at the black-robed men. No one spoke first. "Thanks, little girl. Think about it. As long as you give me the house, I promise to send you out of the secret realm. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll be trapped here forever." After a long time, the middle-aged man did not give up and started to persuade him again. "You don't have to say anything. I won't give this house to you," Leng Ruoxia said with determination. "You guys aren't afraid of death? Or do you really want to stay here forever, never to leave?" The middle-aged man said in disbelief. He had never met such a tactless little fellow before. He had already said so much, but she still insisted on her own idea. Now, he really didn't know if she was smart or if she had something to rely on. "We're not afraid of death, and we don't want to stay here forever." Leng Ruoxia left. They could leave whenever they wanted to and didn't need anyone to arrange it for them. Furthermore, they didn't have any plans to leave at the moment. Hence, this middle-aged man's efforts were in vain. "Little girl, I know that your flames are very powerful and can exterminate the monsters here. However, don't blame me for not warning you. Even if all the monsters here are dead, you will still be trapped here if I don't send you out." The middle-aged man reminded her with extreme caution. In reality, he was very serious about making this deal with Leng Ruoxia. Furthermore, he had already decided that once the deal was successful, he would send them off. After all, there were many people in the mystic realm, and it did not matter if they had a few people. Hence, he was happy to do her a favor at no cost. However, he was surprised that Leng Ruoxia had actually rejected it. However, he didn't fly into a rage because of the rejection. As the saying goes, the things that can't be obtained are the most precious. This could also inspire his fighting spirit, and he was even more determined to get that house. "Don't you think you're too important?" Leng Ruoxia scoffed at the middle-aged man's words. "Ha! Little girl, do you think I'm lying to you? I'll tell you the truth, there's only an entrance to this secret realm, but no exit, and the only way out is only known to me. So, you'd better believe me, otherwise, you'll have to wait to stay in here for the rest of your life." When the middle-aged man heard Leng Ruoxia's mockery, he laughed out loud proudly. "If that's the case, then we won't go out." Leng Ruoxia was extremely calm. "You're not going out? Little girl, do you think that you can live in here without going out? Don't be fooled by the fact that the spiritual qi here is still considered rich. However, the spiritual qi here is not born from heaven and earth, but man-made. Sooner or later, it will be exhausted. Have you ever thought about what you people will do when that day comes? Even ordinary people need fresh air to survive, not to mention us cultivating gods. We need Ling energy. Without the support of Ling energy, the Shen power in our bodies will only be used up bit by bit. At that time, it will be the time of our death," the middle-aged man said earnestly. However, Leng Ruoxia was not moved at all, which gave him a headache. Life and death are up to fate. I'm very open about it. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. Her words made Feng Dao and the others laugh in their hearts. Their miss had a heaven-defying space. Of course, she didn't mind staying here forever. Therefore, the middle-aged man's conditions couldn't move their miss at all. As for what her miss wanted, they naturally knew. Chapter 1747. You've become smarter, for, since you're not satisfied with my conditions, then tell me. If I can accept it, I'll agree to it. The middle-aged man suppressed the anger in his heart. After a long silence, he gritted his teeth and said, "There's no other way. I want this house too much. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to swallow my anger. I'm here to look for someone." Lung Ruoxue only said this one sentence and did not say anything else. "What if I give you the person you're looking for?" The middle-aged man asked. "Are you sure you can make this decision?" Lung Ruoxue asked suspiciously. "Of course." The middle-aged man was very confident. He still had the right to let one or two people go. However, even if he did it, he had to keep it a secret. Otherwise, if his archenemy found out and reported him to his lord, he would be in serious trouble. "That's good. As long as you can give me the person I want, I'll make this deal with you." Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Uncle Long sent a worried voice transmission. "Little girl, do you really want to make a deal with him? This is his territory. If he changes his mind, we won't have anywhere to protect ourselves." "Uncle Long, don't worry, I have my own plans." Lung Ruoxue gave Uncle Long a reassuring look as she replied. Actually, she was thinking that if she could use this house to exchange for Godfather and the others, it would be worth it. In her heart, Godfather and First Elder were much more important than this house. She didn't agree to it before because the middle-aged man didn't offer enough bargaining chips and she didn't like it. When Uncle Long heard Lung Ruoxue's promise, he miraculously relaxed. He stood quietly at the side and decided to wait and see. After the middle-aged man heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he replied in a forthright manner, "Little girl, tell me who you're looking for. They'll just bring him here for you. Are you sure you have the right to let them go?" Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face was filled with suspicion. "Of course." The middle-aged man was very certain. "But I can't be sure that they're in your hands." Lung Ruoxue pretended to be troubled. "Little girl, if the person you're looking for has really entered the mystery realm, even if he's not in my hands, I'll find a way to find him and bring him to you. That should be fine, right?" The middle-aged man said angrily. He did not expect this wretched girl to be so difficult to deal with. If it was not for the sake of getting the house, he would not tolerate her. "Sure." Lung Ruoxue agreed. Then she turned around and wrote down a list of people, then handed it to the middle-aged man. Thanks. The middle-aged man opened the name list and his eyes widened. This list was filled with names. Some were human and some were beast. In total, there were thousands of people. This was clearly playing with him. He was furious. "You're playing with me?" The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and said in an unfriendly tone, "Why would I trick you? These people are indeed the ones I'm looking for. If you want the house, then give them to me." Lung Ruoxue said innocently. In fact, she only knew a small number of people on the list. Besides the people from the Ning family, she was most familiar with the great elder of the Craftsmen's Guild, the master of the Chung family, and the master of the Yin family who had captured her. However, if she only saved them and ignored the people who had come with them, it seemed a little unreasonable. Although those people had nothing to do with her, she had to be a little nosy for the sake of those few old guys. Moreover, the name list not only included people from the Ning family, Chung family, Yin family, Armament Guild headquarters, and Alchemist Guild headquarters, but also some beasts that Uncle Long wanted to save and the elders of the Dolphin clan that the little dolphin wanted to save. In short, all of these names were added together to form this name list that made the middle-aged man furious. Lung Ruoxue's words were like adding oil to the fire to the middle-aged man. As he looked at the name list in his hands, he was so angry that he could not control the anger in his heart. There was even a faint white mist rising from the top of his head. If it was not for his strong mental fortitude, he would have been angered to death by this wretched girl. Originally, he thought that as long as he let 1 or 2 people go, he would be able to get the house that he coveted. But who knew that the other party's appetite was so big? Let's not talk about whether the people she wanted had already been arrested. Just looking at the list of names made him unable to calm down. He dared to secretly release 1 or 2 people, but he didn't have the right to release so many people at once. Even if he did, he wouldn't dare to. If he really did let her go, he would be the one to die in the next second. He shuddered at the thought of his lord's methods. Why? Are you in a difficult position? Don't you have the right to release a few people? He still dared to call himself king? You still dare to make a deal with me? Seeing that the middle-aged man did not respond for a long time, Lung Ruoxue spoke again. At the same time, her beautiful eyes revealed an unconcealed disdain and disappointment. This isn't just a small number of people, the middle-aged man said through gritted teeth. He was so angry that the veins on his forehead were throbbing. It's a little. The others are all beasts from the endless sea. Lung Ruoxue explained. What does the beasts of the endless sea have to do with you? The middle-aged man resisted the urge to beat someone up and shouted. Of course it's my business. My beastie was born in the endless sea. It wants to save its own people and friends, so I can't stop it from saving them. Love the house as the house, you understand. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. What a good love to the house. Don't tell me that those humans are also the result of loving the house. The middle-aged man said with a dark expression. Yeah. You've become smarter. Lung Ruoxue was not stingy with her praise. Let's quickly make a deal. I'll take them away after I'm done. Following that, Lung Ruoxue started to urge him. Chapter 1748, Crossing the Bridge in Secret, 1. Lung Ruoxue's urging and her proud smile caused the middle-aged man's anger to erupt like a volcano. It was out of control. Furthermore, no matter how he looked at Lung Ruoxue's half-smile, with a hint of mockery, it was an eyesore. What a woman who needs a beating! The middle-aged man secretly cursed. This woman had aroused all the anger in his heart, causing his original tender feelings for the woman to disappear. Now, he only wanted to teach this woman who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. A puny deity actually dared to be so presumptuous in front of him and dared to play tricks on him. This was really something that Uncle could tolerate, but Aunt couldn't. Hey, why don't you give a reaction? When can you bring me the person I want? Lung Ruoxue saw that the middle-aged man only glared at her without saying a word and could not help but ask again. You're really looking for death. How dare you tease me like this? After a long while, the middle-aged man gritted his teeth and said. He had lived for so long, but he had never wanted to beat up a woman so much. The little girl in front of him could be considered to have set a record. I told you, I'm not toying with you. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face was full of grievance. However, in the eyes of the middle-aged man, her pitiful look made her even more deserving of a beating. You used so many people to make a deal with me. If you're not toying with me, are you taking care of me? The middle-aged man's face darkened as he said in an unpleasant tone. I don't think I need that many people. Do you think that you can get this house if I only ask for 1 or 2 people from you? Don't tell me you don't know the value of this house. This house is not something that can be bought with money. Lung Ruoxue said with a look of realization. But you can't take so many people away. The middle-aged man's voice had obviously weakened because he knew that Lung Ruoxue was speaking the truth. The value of this house could not be measured by money. Furthermore, even if he could gather the materials, there was no guarantee that he could successfully forge a spatial-type divine weapon. Hence, in comparison, the value of this house would naturally be higher. Otherwise, even he would not be envious of it. But they are all related to me. I can't just leave them be. If you love the house, you love the house, don't you understand? Lung Ruoxue said with a troubled look. I don't care what you say, but you can't take so many people away at once. The middle-aged man was burning with anger. He didn't care about his image as he shouted at the top of his lungs. It seems like we can't complete our deal. There was no room for discussion, as Lung Ruoxue said with a face full of regret. Following that, she smiled at the middle-aged man and said, "How about I leave this woman to you and you hand over all the people on the list to me?" The woman she was referring to was naturally Cheng Xian. "What use do I have for this woman?" After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the middle-aged man was a little angry. This detestable girl, did she think that he would let go of the people on the name list if she kept the Cheng family's young miss? This woman from the Cheng family wasn't that important. This woman is very useful. She's a direct descendant of the Cheng family. You can take her to the Cheng family and extort a huge sum of money from them. Also, don't forget that the Xiao family is her maternal family. I heard that they're quite rich. So, with this woman in hand, it can be said that it's a great profit without any cost. What do you think? My suggestion is good, right? Lung Ruoxue asked with an evil smile. Her words made Elder Chao San, who had heard them clearly, almost vomit blood. What kind of person was this? He actually wanted these men in black to use Cheng Xian to extort them. Cheng Xian had caused such a matter, and it was already good enough that he didn't beat her to death. How could their Chao clan allow others to extort them for her? Thanks. On the other side, Third Elder Chao was filled with anger and hatred. On the other hand, Cheng Xian, who was also listening to Lung Ruoxue's words, looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of admiration. He thought to himself, "This great aunt is too amazing. This is a brilliant idea." However, he was very certain that the Cheng clan would definitely not pay this sum of money for Cheng Xian. Not bad, my ass. She's just a direct descendant of the Cheng family. Would the Cheng family pay for her? At this time, the middle-aged man also said with a face of disbelief. In his heart, he couldn't help but sigh. He was a reverent god after all. This wretched girl actually wanted him to extort. However, this idea seemed to have piqued his interest. "We won't know if we don't try." Lung Ruoxue coaxed. "I don't even need to try to know. However, if it was the young master of the Cheng family, I might really be able to extort a sum of money," the middle-aged man said in a seemingly serious manner. His shrewd eyes were scanning Cheng Xian's body back and forth, as if he was estimating his value. "But, do you want to be the young master of the Cheng family?" Lung Ruoxue's eyes widened as she asked curiously. "One young master of the Cheng family is not enough. I heard that the young master of the Ning family is also here." "That's right," the middle-aged man said with a smile. That's right. However, I can't give them to you. I still have other uses for the two of them. The only thing I can give you is this woman. If you don't think it's enough, you can also get her brother involved. Anyway, they have a deep sibling relationship, and I can't beat them up and let them go their separate ways, so I can only fulfill their wishes," Lung Ruoxue said in an understanding manner. Feng De and the others immediately understood what she meant. The young lady was taking revenge. The Cheng siblings had almost caused them to lose their lives, and their own miss couldn't kill them personally for the sake of the Cheng clan's head and young master. Therefore, she could only throw these two hot potatoes to these black-clothed men. However, they didn't think that these black-clothed men would really want them unless their heads were kicked by a donkey. What if I insist on those two young masters? The middle-aged man's interest was piqued when he saw that Lung Ruoxue did not agree. No room for discussion. They're my people, so I won't give them to you. Also, don't even think about my subordinates. You can have whoever you want. Lung Ruoxue promised. Once she eliminated them, there were 3 people who were not under her protection. These 3 people were Elder Chao San, Qing Yi, and Cheng Xian. "Miss Lung, you can't hand me over to the men in black." After hearing Lung Ruoxue's suggestion, Third Elder Chao's heart started to throb. A trace of fear emerged from the bottom of his heart, and his face turned frighteningly pale. At this moment, even though he hated Lung Ruoxue for being disloyal, he was also well aware that no one else could help him. If she really abandoned them, then they would only have a dead end in the mystic realm. Hence, even if he hated Lung Ruoxue to the point of wanting to swallow her alive, he had to put on a pitiful look to prevent her from really handing them over. "Even if I want to hand them over, they still have to want you," Lung Ruoxue said with a look of disdain. This damned old man had always wanted to scheme against her. Now that his scheme had failed, he finally knew what fear was. What were you doing earlier? Ah. When Elder Chao San heard Lung Ruoxue's honest words, he swallowed his saliva with great difficulty and did not dare to speak anymore. The only thing he could do now was to lower his presence and not attract the attention of those men in black. Chapter 1749. Crossing the Bridge in Secret, 2. He was so scared that his intelligence was reduced to 0. Hence, he had never thought about whether the middle-aged man would agree to use this house in exchange for the three of them. He had also never thought about why Lung Ruoxue would say that. Even though she wanted to get rid of these guys, Lung Ruoxue wanted to anger this middle-aged man even more. It would be best if she could anger him to the point of losing his mind. That way, she would be able to fish in troubled waters. More importantly, this was her plan to do the same thing in the open and secretly do it in the dark. She had just sent her beastie to the bottom of the valley. What she needed to do now was to stall the middle-aged man and buy more time for her beasts. Uncle. Although the three of them are a little small in number, they're just the added bonus to the house. You can consider it an additional gift from me. Look at the three of them. There are old and young, men and women. They can run errands for you and warm your bed. What a good deal. 1 for 3, there will never be such a cheap deal in this world again, so let's quickly make the deal. Lung Ruoxue explained all the benefits. When she said it, she felt like laughing in her heart. Furthermore, when she saw Third Elder Chao's face that was even darker than ink, she felt extremely comfortable in her heart. It was a pity that Cheng Xian was still unconscious and could not hear her opinion. This made her feel a little regretful. According to what you said, I seem to have gained a huge advantage. The middle-aged man laughed instead of getting angry. To be honest, he was amused by Lung Ruoxue's words. He had lived for so long and this woman in front of him was the one who deserved the most beating. At the same time, she was also the one who was the best at twisting the truth. However, he was not a fool and would be fooled by her words. Lung Ruoxue could hear the middle-aged man's sarcasm and gave him a "it's good that you know" look without a care. Then she looked at him with a smile full of anticipation, as if this deal was already set in stone. The middle-aged man was helpless. It seemed like he had to give Lung Ruoxue the title of the most shameless woman. Uncle, when is the deal? Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and acted cute with her sweet mouth as she asked. I didn't say I wanted to trade. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and said angrily, Uncle, what the hell are you doing? If you don't keep your word, you'll be struck by lightning. Lung Ruoxue cursed. You? The middle-aged man was so angry that he was stammering. Facing Lung Ruoxue, he felt a deep sense of powerlessness because she did not take his words seriously at all. She was always talking to herself, making him feel like a hero who was of no use to her. Uncle. You're the one who wants to make a deal, and you're also the one who reneges. What do you want? You're going to make me angry if you keep repeating this. Lung Ruoxue warned. I've already said that there are too many people on your list. I can't give them all to you. The middle-aged man took a few deep breaths and forced himself to calm down. He didn't want to be fooled by the other party. Moreover, he didn't have all the people on the list. He was still looking for some. Didn't I give you an extra head? Why aren't you satisfied with a 1 for 3 exchange? Lung Ruoxue was slightly angered. Her beautiful eyes were burning with flames of anger as she glared at the middle-aged man. Do you know how many people you want? The middle-aged man clenched his fists tightly. He was trying to calm himself down and not be angered by this woman. I know. Lung Ruoxue nodded and used the same tone to ask, Then do you know the value of my house? Of course he knew. The middle-aged man thought to himself. If he didn't know, he wouldn't be so conflicted, and he wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to her. How about this? Let's each take a step back. It'll give you at most 500 slots. How about it? After some thought, the middle-aged man suggested. This was his final decision after much consideration. Who asked him to want that house so much? If he were to snatch it by force, he had no absolute confidence at all. Moreover, he didn't think that these people would submit to him and let him do whatever he wanted. Thanks, 1,000. I want 1,000 people. Lung Ruoxue started to bargain. 600. I can't go any further. The middle-aged man loosened the quota of 100 people. Then 900. 600 is too little, it's not enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Lung Ruoxue said in dissatisfaction. 800 people. If you're still not satisfied, then I can only cancel this deal. The middle-aged man threatened. All right then. 800 it is. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. She knew that this was the middle-aged man's bottom line. However, there were 800 of them in the open. She could decide how many of them she wanted to take away in secret. Men, bring 800 of them here according to the names on the list. After discussing the conditions, the middle-aged man immediately ordered his subordinates. Wait! The moment Lung Ruoxue heard this, she immediately called for a stop. She couldn't allow the other party to follow the names on the list. After all, there were many punks there to make up the numbers. If the people the other party brought weren't the ones she really wanted to save, wouldn't she suffer a great loss? What are you doing now? The middle-aged man said with a slight headache. The list of names is too wide. I request a new list. Lung Ruoxue requested. That's good. Hurry up. The middle-aged man urged. He was already losing his patience from being tormented by this hateful woman. According to his original plan, he just needed to gather 800 men and hand them over to Lung Ruoxue. Who knew that this little girl was so scheming? Uncle, calm down. It's not like this house can run away. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. Then, she wrote a new name list and passed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man took the name list and looked at it again. The moment he looked at it, his head hurt even more. He knew that this woman would not be easy to fool. Most of the people on the list were the most powerful ones who had been tricked into entering the secret realm. Moreover, he had not caught a considerable number of them yet. How could he complete the deal? He was depressed. Uncle, quickly hand these people over to me. After the deal is done, you can send us out of here. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. She kept urging him, but the middle-aged man's face turned uglier and uglier. He still had to send them off. Their deal didn't seem to include this, right? However, he couldn't be bothered to argue with this little girl anymore, mainly because he didn't think he could win her in an argument. Therefore, the only thing he wanted to do now was to send this hateful woman away as soon as possible. Otherwise, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't want to strangle her to death after a long time. Unfortunately, his wish was good, but reality was cruel. Many of the people that Lung Ruoxue wanted were not in his hands. Hence, even if he wanted to send this god of plague away as soon as possible, he had no way of doing so. Only a portion of the people you want are in my hands. As for the others, I will find them as soon as possible and bring them to you. The middle-aged man said after some thought. Chapter 1750, Crossing the Bridge in Secret, 3, Good. They'll be waiting here. Lung Ruoxue agreed readily. Then, the middle-aged man ordered his men to bring them to their secret location. After receiving the order, this subordinate immediately went to the secret room where those people were locked up. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue sent a voice transmission to her beasts. Charm. If you follow the men in black, you'll be able to find the person they locked up. Lung Ruoxue reminded. Her spirit beasts had searched the bottom of the valley for a long time, but they could not find the place where the people who had been captured were kept. Now was a good opportunity. I know, master. The May replied. Then, the few little beasts looked at each other and stayed in place, waiting for the black-clothed man to come to their door. They were now at the main entrance, which was the only path the men in black had to pass. In addition, they were invisible at the moment, so they easily followed behind the men in black. The man in black turned two corners and passed through a dark corridor. The May and the other small beasts followed the man in black into an underground secret room. The secret room was very spacious and there were no decorations inside. However, there was a pool in the left corner of the wall. The pool was filled with bright red blood, giving off a strong bloody smell. In the middle of the pool, there was a red flower that was as bright as fire. The flower had multiple petals and was the size of a millstone. It was in full bloom. Above the pool, there were countless fist-sized spheres. Those spheres were white and transparent, and each sphere contained a person or a beast. At this time, the mental state of those people and beasts were all extremely dispirited. Some were already on the verge of death, with only one breath left. Seeing this scene, the May and the other beasts could not describe the feelings in their hearts. Moreover, there were many beasts trapped in the ball. However, what made them even more troubled was how to release these people or beasts from the ball. At the thought of this, the May and the other beasts' gazes were fixed on the black-clothed man's every move. At this moment, the man in black took out the name list that Lung Ruoxue had requested and carefully checked it. Every time he found a person, he would bring down the sphere that person was in. After finding all the people and beasts, the man in black cast a few complicated hand seals. Following that, the sphere disappeared and extremely weak humans and beasts were released from the sphere. "What's the matter? Is it our time to die?" An old-looking man asked. "You're in luck, someone's here to save you." The man in black shouted. "Really?" The old man was still in doubt, and when the others heard his words, their reactions were calm. Or rather, they didn't believe him at all. "Do you think I would lie to you?" The black-clothed man said unhappily, but he couldn't help but think in his heart, Master really made a good deal. This was because even if these people were given to the other party, they would not be able to live for long. Their life force had long since withered, and the final outcome of them staying here would only be to become food for those monsters. Now, using them to exchange for that amazing spatial artifact was definitely a profit without loss, hee. In the future, they would be able to enjoy the benefits of that house, he thought to himself. "I wonder who's the one who's coming to save us?" The old man asked curiously. They had been trapped here for a long time and had no hope of getting out. Now that they heard that someone had come to save them, they were even more curious. "A woman with the surname Lung." The man in black said. "The woman with the surname Lung?" The old man carefully recalled. In his memory, he did not seem to know any woman with the surname Lung. Why would she come to save him for no reason? He could not understand. "Thanks, you'll see her in a while. Follow me," the black-clothed man ordered. After he finished speaking, he took the lead and walked out of the secret room. Seeing this, the old man looked at the others who were as confused as him and followed him out. After they had all left, the May looked at the people who were still in the secret chamber and felt hesitant. The remaining people did not have a deep relationship with his master, or it could be said that they had no relationship at all. So, should he save them or not? Should we rescue them? The May transmitted her voice to the other beasts. "Save him. Why not? They're all money." Baby said a little miserly. It should be known that its biggest wish was to earn a lot of money for its cute master, so it would not let go of any opportunity to make money. "Master sent us here to save people. However, we don't know many of these people, so we can't save them for nothing." Ling Chen thought for a moment before speaking in a serious tone. "Good brother. Well said. We have to take risks to save people, so they should pay us." Baby gave Ling an appreciative look. Mice's head was full of black lines as she listened to the conversation between the two guys. If he wanted to earn money, then so be it. It wouldn't stop him, so why make it sound so grand? Then what are we waiting for? Let's discuss the conditions with them first, then let them out. Yao was not in a hurry. It had not shown itself for too long, so it definitely could not let this opportunity go. "You guys go ahead. I'll keep a lookout for you." The May said very self-consciously. It was very self-aware. It knew that its mischievousness could not be compared to these guys, so it was more suitable for it to be on the lookout. Let's go and do something big," Baby said with a bandit-like expression. After saying that, it asked Ling to remove its invisibility and then walked to the side of the pool with small steps. What a strong smell of blood. Baby wrinkled his cute little nose and was a little disgusted. A good flower was actually a blood-sucking one. She really didn't learn well. Then it looked up at the top of the pool. The dying man and beast inside had clearly noticed its existence. They still had a trace of clarity, and all of them looked back at it with wide eyes. I'm here to save you. However, he couldn't save her for nothing. You have to pay a corresponding reward before I will let you out. How about it? If you agree, then nod your head. Otherwise, just shake your head. Baby said directly. These people's bodies were really too weak. It was really afraid that they would faint before they finished listening to its words. Then, wouldn't it have worked for nothing? When the humans and beasts in the sphere heard this furry, dark purple cute little fox's words, they all chose to agree, although they still had some doubts on their faces. You're tactful. Baby was very satisfied with their choice. Then, it gave a look to Ling, who was still invisible. Ling understood and jumped into the air. Buzz. After a few flashes of light, those who had agreed to it fell to the ground one after another. Seeing this, they couldn't help but reveal a trace of shock in their eyes because they didn't see the little fox do anything at all. They were saved from midair. This was really incredible. One should know that the ball wasn't so easy to get down. Immediately, they were in awe of the treasure. It seemed that this little fox really had some tricks up her sleeve. Chapter 1751. Crossing the bridge in secret, for, at this moment, they would never have dreamed that this was a trick played by Bao Bao and the other beasts to intimidate them and gain more bargaining chips for themselves. After seeing them land, Baby walked up to them with a little pride and said, "You've all seen my ability. Now, let's talk about my conditions." The people and beasts in the sphere nodded and looked at the treasure with eager eyes. Actually, my request is very simple. You just need to pay me a reward equal to your status, and I'll let you out. Baby said with a smile. There was definitely a trap in its words. Who asked it to not know the identity of these people, so it did not dare to casually state a price. Otherwise, if they could not afford it, then wouldn't they have worked for nothing? Moreover, it didn't want to be a creditor. To put it bluntly, it didn't give credit. Among these people or beasts, whoever could pay the money, it would take them away. Otherwise, they could stay here. It did not have any sympathy. When the people or beasts in the sphere heard Treasure's words, they couldn't help but look at each other. Was he asking them to bid for themselves? However, they were penniless now, so how could they afford the pay? Little fox. To be honest, we don't have a single cent right now. One of the whales in the ball said, No money? It's fine if you have medicinal herbs and materials of equivalent value. They'll make do with it. Baby thought for a while and said, That's not it either. All the good things on us were taken away by the men in black when we were caught, so, the whale said with some embarrassment. It did not finish its sentence, but it believed that the smart little fox would understand. Then what do we do? Baby was a little dumbfounded. It's money-making plan. Was the fetus going to die in the womb just like this? It was unwilling. He didn't want to work for free. Why don't we owe him first? Most of us are respected in the divine realm, so we definitely want renege on your debt. The whale promised with a hint of anticipation in its eyes. I don't buy on credit. Baby said a little gloomily, but in his heart, he was thinking about how to get the good things that the black-clothed man had taken from them into his bag. It seemed that he would have to let Yu Xuan try it later, If he could find those things, they would all belong to him. However, it didn't have much hope for this, because there were many places here that Feather couldn't see through, such as this secret room. Little fox. Seeing that we're all beastie, please make an exception. Our beastie is the most trustworthy. We definitely won't go back on our word. The whale pleaded. All right then. Since you've said so, I'll give you face. The beasts can write me an IOU, but humans can't. Baby thought for a moment, and then said very seriously. Humans are the most cunning. Except for Master and the people around Master, it doesn't like any other human. Little fox. You can't be racist. This is a clear difference in treatment. The human trapped in the sphere immediately became anxious when he heard this. I have no choice. I'm not a human, and am not familiar with you. If you lie to me, who can I cry to? Baby clearly didn't believe them. As he said this, his silver eyes revealed a trace of innocence. Thanks, little fox. To tell you the truth, I'm an elder of the Yao family. Our Yao family is one of the 8 great divine regions, and our status is only second to the Ning family. So, don't worry, I won't lie to you. How about I swear on the Yao family's reputation? Just trust me. An old man with a white beard and a haggard face in the ball said patiently. You're an elder of the Yao family? Hearing the old man's words, Baby squinted his silver eyes and asked calmly. It seems like you've heard of our Yao family, little fox. That's great. The Yao family elder said happily. Looking at the slightly excited old man, Baby's heart was filled with 120,000 points of sympathy for him. Of course, it had heard of the Yao family. Speaking of which, the Yao family seemed to have some grudges with them. However, looking at the old man's excitement, it really couldn't bear to discourage him. So, who asked it to be a kind-hearted little fox? After thinking about it, the baby spoke again with a cautious expression. Actually, I can't bear to leave you in the lurch. But as you all know, we beasts have never had a good impression of humans. However, seeing that you all are quite pitiful, you'll be kind this time. Little fox, you're a good beast. Thank you. The Yao family elder immediately tried to curry favor with his baby. Wait, don't worry, I'm not done yet. Baby reminded. Then it continued, I can save you, but your reward will be at least twice as much as theirs. Furthermore, you have to swear an oath to your family that if you agree, I will let you out. Otherwise, you can continue to stay here. I agree. The elder of the Yao family thought for a while and said, What about you guys? Baby's beautiful silver eyes were flowing with light as she looked at the others in the sphere and asked, I also agree. I also agree. The people trapped by the sphere expressed their opinions. Although the people he had saved had agreed to Baby's request, it was still not happy because these people had no money and had to write an IOU for it. So, it clearly did not want to be a creditor, but the situation forced it. The depressed baby stood in front of the ball on the ground and imitated the black-clothed man's method, striking out the magic art in his memory. In an instant, the ball broke into pieces, turned into starlight, and disappeared. Chapter 1752, Preparing for a Rainy Day, 1. As soon as the sphere disappeared, the humans and beasts trapped inside regained their freedom. They slowly got up from the ground and walked in front of the little fox one by one, saying, Little fox, thank you for saving us. Everyone's thanks were sincere, but their gratitude was completely crushed by the treasure. You don't have to be so polite. I didn't save you for nothing. Treasure said disapprovingly. Then he took out a pen and paper from his storage space and handed it to the crowd and the beasts. When everyone saw this, they all understood what the little fox meant. All the beastie present also transformed into human form, took a pen and paper, and wrote down the first IOU in their lives. After keeping the IOU, Baby reminded, Now you can swear an oath. Remember, you must swear on your family's bloodline. What? Everyone was dumbfounded. Didn't he swear on his family? Why did it become an oath on the bloodline of the family? One had to know that these were 2 completely different kinds of oaths. Most of the time, swearing on the family name involved the family's reputation or status, while swearing on the family's bloodline involved the descendants. He only owed it a little reward, and he wanted them to swear an oath with their family bloodline. This was a bit too much. What? Didn't you hear me clearly? I'm asking you to swear on your family bloodline. Baby asked with a puzzled look. Could it be that its words were difficult to understand? That little fox, we won't go back on our word. So, there's no need to swear on our family bloodline, right? The elder of the Yao family spoke on behalf of the crowd. After all, he was the first one to agree to this. If he didn't do it, he would have offended all the people and beasts present. You've misunderstood me. I asked you to swear on your family's bloodline because I'm afraid you won't be able to pay off the debt you owe me, hee. If you can't pay them back, you'll have to ask the descendants of your respective families to pay them back. That's why I want you to swear on your family bloodline. In this way, they can't deny it even if they want to. Baby explained. I don't have any intention of asking you to curse your own descendants. Baby added, worried. This time, everyone and the beasts understood. However, they were still a little unwilling in their hearts. After all, it involved their own family's descendants, so they had to be careful. Seeing that the crowd and the beasts were silent for a long time, Treasure smiled again. It seems that you want to go back on your word. It doesn't matter, a great beast, am magnanimous and won't hold it against you. You can slowly stay here and wait for your death. Little fox. You've misunderstood, we're thinking about how to make the oath. The whale quickly said. He had to calm down this bad-tempered little fox first. Otherwise, if it left, they could only wait for death here. Is there a need to think about this? Baby raised its eyebrows. It didn't believe the whale at all. Of course we have to consider it. It's fine if we swear on our own, but this concerns our future generations, so we have to be careful. The Yao clan elders said with a serious expression. Thanks, old man. You care so much about your descendants, but when you were trapped here, did they come to save you? Baby said with a hint of ridicule. In fact, it was well aware that these old foxes who thought they were cunning were afraid that it would use the oath to threaten their descendants. In fact, it wanted to say, you're thinking too much. In its eyes, their descendants are not worth mentioning at all. However, in order to prevent these old guys from falling out with it, it had no choice but to ask them to swear on their family bloodline. It did not expect them to still be hesitant. If it had known this earlier, it really should not have saved them. The treasure was filled with hatred. They don't know that we're trapped here, and with their strength, they won't be able to come back even if they come to save us. The Yao clan elders said somewhat embarrassedly. We already know, how could they not know? Then isn't your Yao clan's information network a little too lacking? The baby sneered at the Yao family elder's words. This old man was clearly finding excuses for his descendants and giving him face. If they were weak, could the Yao family's strength be weaker than theirs? They all dared to come in, but where was the Yao family? The Yao family elder was completely out of power. This little fox really had a sharp tongue. He realized that he couldn't out-talk it. This fact made him a little depressed. What's with Have you guys considered it? I'll give you 5 more minutes. If you're still hesitating after 5 minutes, I'll leave you guys be. Baby made the final announcement. Little fox, we don't know how to say this oath, why don't you give us an example? The whale said carefully when it saw that its baby was unhappy. You're still the smartest, you can even teach your beast taming. Baby said politely. Listen up. So-and-so, owe my precious master a reward of double my status. Now, I swear by the bloodline of the family that I will do my best to pay off the debt in my lifetime. If the debt is not paid off in my lifetime, my family's descendants have the obligation and responsibility to carry on this debt until the debt is paid off. Baby cleared his throat and said, By the way, Beastie's pay is double, don't make a mistake. Baby added. The whale nodded and helplessly swore. Following that, people began to swear on their bloodlines, and the contract rules continued to descend in the secret chamber. After a long time. After everyone and the beasts had finished their vows, Baby smiled in satisfaction and added, I forgot to tell you that my debt has a time limit. You have to pay it off within a month. Otherwise, there will be interest, hee. The interest is a compound interest. Therefore, you must make the best use of your time. The baby's additional explanation made everyone and the beasts so angry that they almost vomited blood. What did she mean by forgot to say? This detestable little fox clearly did not want to say it on purpose. Now that they had finished swearing on their bloodline, she told them about this waste of time. This was clearly not giving them a chance to regret. However, now that things had come to this, they really had no room for regret. Moreover, they finally understood why this evil little fox wanted them to swear on their family's bloodline. It turned out that she treated them as a long-term meal ticket. As long as they couldn't pay off their debts on time, they and their descendants would have to run around to pay off their debts in the future. This fact made their joy of being rescued vanish. Seeing their troubles, Baby said in a very understanding manner, Actually, you don't have to be so depressed. As long as you pay off your debts within a month, everything will be fine, right? Don't forget, the reward I ask for is equal to your own status. It's only double that of a humaness. So, you can do as you see fit. Pay me however much you think you're worth. There's no need to be so embarrassed. I don't mind how much you pay me, really. Chapter 1753, Preparing for a Rainy Day. 2. Baby's words were reasonable, but it was completely not the case in the ears of the people present. Many people could not help but think in their hearts, "You didn't say how much we should pay you, but you said you want a reward equal to our status." In other words, they will pay each other however much they think they are worth, and every person or beast here more or less has some reputation in the immortal realm, so they naturally wouldn't do something that would lower their own status. It wouldn't be good if word got out. How would they face others in the future? Therefore, even if it was for the sake of their own face, the price they offered couldn't be too low. Otherwise, he would not have the face to continue living in the divine realm in the future. We don't have any money now. If we can't leave this mystic realm within a month, how are we going to settle this? The Yao family elder asked after some thought. That will count as interest. After all, we are only responsible for bringing you out of this secret chamber. As for whether you can leave this secret realm or not, it is not within our scope of consideration. Baby said matter-of-factly. Little fox, this won't do. You brought us out of here, so you can't just leave us alone. With our current physical condition, if you don't care about us, it won't be long before we'll be caught again. The whale quickly said in fear. You can't just abandon us. The other humans and beasts also chimed in. What? You're still counting on me to finish the whole pack. Besides, I'm not human. Baby said in an unpleasant tone. Little fox, you're the kindest and most adorable little fox. You won't leave me in the lurch, right? The whale coaxed. You're wrong. Although I'm cute, I'm not kind. I'll definitely not save you if I see you in danger. Besides, don't you know that I saved you for money? So, you don't have to flatter me. I don't buy it. Baby said arrogantly as he turned his head. However, if you want me to take you out of the mystic realm, you'll have to pay extra. And I can tell you clearly that our escort fee is very expensive. Then, the baby changed the topic and brought up money again. When everyone in the beasts heard Baby's words, they all wiped their sweat. I've never seen a fox that likes money so much. What's wrong with it having eyes for money? Of course, they would never have dreamed that the baby wanted to accumulate wealth so desperately, all for the sake of its lovely master. Seeing that the people and beasts present were silent again, Baby smiled and said, Hee hee. If you want to seek our protection, then write me an IOU and make a bloodline oath. If you can't pay it all off, don't you have your descendants to help you? So, don't feel any pressure and think about it. Baby's words made everyone look at each other and speechless. They really didn't know what to say. This little fox was not just greedy for money. Moreover, they couldn't find any fault in its words, so it made them feel even more depressed. Little fox, if we accept your escort, can you guarantee that you can bring us out of here safely? The whale asked again after a while. This is a must. The escort fee will be paid within a month of your departure. If there is any delay, the interest will also be compounded. However, I will not be responsible for your clothing, food, accommodation, and transportation here. If it is up to me to arrange it, the cost will also be calculated separately. The treasure's silver eyes quickly flashed with a trace of calculation as it explained. This time, Baby's words were very clear, but everyone or the beasts were very depressed when they heard it. However, it was a good thing that their strength was there. They didn't need to eat anything and could just find a place to spend the night. Therefore, they didn't need to trouble the little fox in terms of food, clothing, shelter, and transportation, they thought. Thanks, little fox. We can take care of our own basic needs. Everyone looked at each other and said in unison, all right then. You only need to pay me 1 million top-grade crystals or medicinal herbs, ores, and materials of the same value, and I promise to bring you out of the secret realm. Baby said with a faint smile. What, 1 million? You're a robber. When the crowd and beasts heard this number, they were all dumbfounded. Do you think it's easy to bring you old, weak, sick, and disabled out of the secret realm? In my opinion, this amount of money is too little. Baby raised his cute little head and said with an aggrieved face, "You're trapped in the secret realm, so you should know better than anyone else how dangerous and terrifying this secret realm is. Otherwise, how could you have been captured with your strength? And we're taking a risk by bringing you guys out, so how can we be at peace if we don't ask for more money? Why would we be willing to take you guys with us?" Without giving them a chance to speak, Baby's silver eyes were filled with tears as he argued. Baby's words made everyone speechless once again. They were indeed a burden now. However, as long as they thought of how much money this little fox had asked them for, their hearts ached. Baby saw through their thoughts and said with great sincerity, "Money is just a worldly possession. Do you think a mere 1 million top-grade crystal stones is worth less than your life? If you really value money more than your lives, then I have nothing to say. After all, this is your choice. We'll meet again. I hope that I'll still be able to see your figures in the divine realm in the future. I look forward to the day we meet again." After saying that, Baby took small steps and planned to leave. "Wait!" Seeing that the treasure was about to leave, the whale quickly said, "Is there anything else?" Baby turned his head and asked, "I'm willing to pay 1 million top-grade crystals, but I don't have that much, so I can only use materials as payment." The whale thought ruthlessly, "This little fox is right. Money is just a worldly possession. What's the use of money if I don't even have my life?" Therefore, he was the first to think things through. He could not be with those anthropology checks that like to take advantage of small gains, or he would suffer a big loss. "No problem. I don't care what you offer as a mortgage. As long as it's of the same value, I'll take it," Baby said with a smile, obviously very satisfied with this whale's way of doing things. Moreover, this fish was the first one to take the bait when it was playing hard to get, so it deserved its special treatment. "You're the first customer to ask us to escort you, so I should give you some benefits. I'll pay for all your food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation, so I won't ask you for extra money." Baby thought for a while and continued. "Thank you," he said. The whale was speechless. It didn't think that it needed to be provided with food, clothing, and accommodation. However, when it saw the food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation, it realized how wise its decision was. Baby saw the whale's disapproving look and didn't explain much. Instead, he turned his eyes to the others. Chapter 1754, Preparing for a Rainy Day, 3. "If you don't need our escort, then let's part ways. I wish you all good luck," Treasure said straightforwardly, but there was a faint anger in its heart. These guys won't shed tears until they see their coffins. It should really let those black-clothed men feed them all to the fish. It thought in its heart. "I request your escort," a rather petite man said in a low voice. He was also a beastie, and his home was in the endless sea. He wanted to return home safely, so he needed their help. "No problem," he said. Baby nodded in satisfaction. "Very good, another one has taken the bait." Soon after, another beast requested for the escort of the treasure. Just like that, all the beasts present agreed to the sky-high escort fee, while no one from the human side had agreed to it yet. Seeing this, Bao Bao didn't bother to ask for their opinions. He led the beasts who wanted to be escorted out of the secret room. When the Yao family elders and the others saw this, they immediately became anxious. Their bodies were extremely weak, and if no one protected them, their lives would be in danger. None of them wanted to die. "Little fox, wait a minute, let's have a good discussion," the Yao family elder, who had received everyone's gazes, hurriedly said. "What's there to discuss? Since your lives aren't as important as money, I can only leave you to your own devices," Baby said without the slightest bit of sympathy. "Little fox, it's not that we don't want to spend money, but your fees are too high, we can't afford it," the Yao family elder said with a pained expression. "What a joke! If these orcs can afford it, why can't you elders of large clans? If you want to deduct money, just deduct it. Don't find excuses for yourself, okay? Otherwise, he'll look down on you," Baby said. "It is. They just can't bear to part with money. Little fox, don't care about their life or death. Humans and our beast race are not the same. The whale said, adding insult to injury. Of course, he said this to please the baby, who asked this little fox to be his life-saving talisman now. That's right. All the beasts agreed. After their lives were guaranteed, they were naturally incompatible with humans. Therefore, they all added insult to injury. Little fox. These humans were rich. If you charge us 1 million top-grade crystals, I think we can raise the price a bit if we charge them. They can afford it. A beastie suggested considerately. He was also playing into the little fox's favor. That's a good idea, then we'll take them in. Baobei smiled evilly and was about to say a new number. When the Yao family elders and the others saw this, they glared at Beastie who had come up with this bad idea. Then, they smiled kindly at Baobei and said, 1 million top-grade crystals, we agree. It's a deal. You're a good fox, so you can't just set a price on the spot. All right then. Baby deliberately put on a reluctant look, but in his heart he was already laughing. No matter how cunning these humans were, how could they scheme against a fox? Then, Baby arranged for them to write a new IOU. Of course, they had to make a bloodline oath as well. After all, these two were different names. After everything was settled, Ling appeared and cast an invisibility spell on everyone and the beasts. Then, everyone left the secret room together. Before they left, Baby also took away those who were unconscious in the sphere. These were all potential customers. He couldn't let them go either. As soon as they left the secret room, Baby ran to the Yao family elder and whispered a few words to him. Instantly, the Yao family elder's face turned ugly, but he couldn't resist the temptation and finally nodded with a black face. Then, the man and beast sneakily returned to the secret room. The Mei led a few small beasts and the large crowd behind her. They went around the black-robed men outside the valley and stood behind Lung Ruoxue and the others. After leaving the valley and not being discovered by the black-robed men, everyone and the beasts immediately felt relieved. It seemed that the money they had spent was worth it. This invisibility technique was also very useful. No one actually sensed their existence. This time, their little lives were finally saved, and their hearts that had been hanging in the air all this time were finally put at ease. Not long after, Baby with a wicked smile and the Yao family elder also returned to the group. Thanks, treasure. Where did you go this time? Mei couldn't help but ask curiously. I've left some mementos for the flower. I believe it will never forget it. Baby's smile was very evil. It knew that there was something strange with that flower, so how could it be left there unscathed? That was not his baby's character. What did you do? The Mei asked uneasily. I didn't do anything, I just added something to the blood pool. Baby said in a mysterious manner. What did you add? Mei Qiaojun asked. I added some human urine. Baby said with a smile. It can't be that Yao family elder's urine, right? Mei's forehead was filled with black lines. Congratulations, you got it right. Baby said with a slight pride. How could that old man agree to your request? The Mei said with some admiration. I promised to charge him 100,000 top-grade crystals less, so he agreed. Baby explained. You're amazing. The Mei was full of admiration for the baby. No big deal. Actually, I have another reason for looking for this old man. Baby said, deliberately mystified. What's the purpose? Mei's eyes widened as she shamelessly asked. He's from the Yao family. In the future, if there's any sign of trouble in the Yao family, we can go and ask him. He'll definitely tell us everything he knows, Baby said confidently. Nothing you don't know. Would he be so obedient to tell us about the Yao family? The Mei was suspicious of her baby's overconfident words. He can choose not to tell us. However, if he doesn't tell us, it'll make the matter of him peeing in the blood pool public. They'll see if he still has the face to continue living in the divine realm in the future. Furthermore, if the black-clothed men here know about this matter, they will definitely not let him off. Baby said with a scheming look. You're ruthless. Mei wiped the cold sweat from her forehead, feeling sympathy for the Yao family elder. Poor old man. You still don't know what you've gotten yourself into. Colluding with baby would only result in him being schemed against until nothing was left. I'm just preparing for a rainy day, baby said with a faint smile. Then, he jumped into Lung Ruox's arms and kept rubbing against her. While he was invisible, he wanted to take advantage of his cute master's tender tofu. After all, such opportunities were rare. Lung Ruoxue felt the movement in her arms and sighed helplessly. Then, her beautiful eyes turned towards the middle-aged man. Previously, she had already made a deal with the middle-aged man. However, less than 300 people had been handed over to her, and none of them were the ones she was most familiar with. However, Lung Ruoxue was relieved. As long as her godfather did not fall into the hands of these men in black, it was fine. Otherwise, she was really afraid that her godfather, the great elder, and the rest would end up like these people, being tortured beyond recognition and becoming thin to the bone. Chapter 1755, Preparing for a Rainy Day 4, When will you leave the rest of the people to me? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. As soon as I find them, I'll immediately hand them over to you. The middle-aged man said. That's good. I'll be waiting for your good news, but don't let me find them first. Otherwise, our deal can't be completed. Lung Ruoxue reminded. If the transaction could not be completed, it would naturally mean that the transaction had failed. This is my territory. You can't find them before me. The middle-aged man said confidently. Good luck then. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. After she finished speaking, she led everyone back to the house, and the middle-aged man also returned to the valley with his subordinates. As for the pitiful Cheng Xian, she was completely ignored by both sides. The unconscious Cheng Xian lay on the cold ground with no one caring about her. After entering the house, the old man and the rest immediately gave Lung Ruoxue a deep bow to thank her for saving their lives. However, at the same time, they were certain that they did not know this human lady. You old dolphin, I didn't think that there would be a day when you would be in such a sorry state. Uncle Long said to the old man. It was obvious that he was very familiar with this man. However, the old man did not recognize Uncle Long. He only felt that this person's aura was somewhat familiar, but he could not remember where he had seen this person before. You are, the old man was a little suspicious, and there was a trace of confusion in his eyes. I'm your Uncle Long. Uncle Long said loudly. Arg, Uncle Long. It's actually you, old man. The old man was suddenly enlightened. No wonder he felt that this person was somewhat familiar. It turned out to be that person. As for the beasts of the endless ocean, after hearing the two words Uncle Long, they immediately became excited, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. This person was too famous in the endless sea. He was a godlike existence. He was also their idol. However, Uncle Long had always lived in seclusion and rarely came into contact with the beasts of the endless ocean. Therefore, most of them had only heard of his name and had never seen him in person. Therefore, it was actually the first time for many of the beasts to see Uncle Long's true appearance, and this fact made them even more excited. Uncle Long. In the blink of an eye, Uncle Long was surrounded by the sea beasts that had transformed into humans. Thanks. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you not to come here? However, none of you were willing to listen. Now, if it wasn't for the little girl who saved you, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to see your corpses. Compared to the beast's enthusiasm, Uncle Dragon's expression was rather cold. Furthermore, the first thing he said was to reprimand them. However, none of the beasts dared to refute his words. Uncle Long, we know we were wrong. The old man lowered his head and said with some shame, It's too late for you to realize your mistakes. Your life force is almost exhausted. All on your own. Uncle Long sighed and said helplessly. To cultivators, although their cultivation was important, their life force was their foundation. However, it was clear that these people in front of him had their life force taken away by someone else. This was even more despicable than destroying their cultivation. This kind of behavior was absolutely forbidden in the divine world. Therefore, Uncle Long could not think of anyone who had the guts to do such a thing in the divine world. Was he not afraid of being punished by the heavens? Little girl, thank you for saving them. Uncle Long shifted his gaze to Lung Ruoshua. Uncle Long, you are too polite. Lung Ruoshua smiled. With a thought, a blue mini dolphin appeared in front of everyone. Ancestor! As soon as the little dolphin appeared, it immediately pounced toward the old man. Little Chi, what are you doing here? The old man looked at the little dolphin in his arms and said in surprise. I came in with my master. The little dolphin said honestly. Master? You've recognized a human as your master? The old man said in disbelief. Their dolphin race had always been proud. Since ancient times, it was rare for them to acknowledge a human as their master. He did not expect that after not seeing each other for a long time, his most beloved junior would actually find a master. This could not help but surprise him. Its master is the little girl who saved you. Uncle Long added. Oh, little girl, thank you for saving us. The old man thanked him again. Since things had come to this, there was no point in saying more. You're welcome. The little dolphin is my beastie. Naturally, I won't just stand by and watch its family fall into the hands of those black-clothed men. Lung Ruoshua answered honestly. Thank you for saving my life, miss. At this moment, the other sea beasts once again expressed their gratitude to Lung Ruoshua. After they finished speaking, Baby immediately revealed itself and brought the person it brought out to Lung Ruoshua. With a pale face, it said, Cute master. We've also brought back the people who weren't on the list. However, I've accepted their payment, baby. This is their IOU. In addition, they've also made a bloodline oath, so don't worry, master. They won't dare to renege on their debt. After saying that, Baby handed the IOU to Lung Ruoshua. You're so capable, baby. Lung Ruoshua looked at the thick stack of IOUs in her hands, her forehead full of black lines. What could she say? In fact, she had sent her beastie to the bottom of the valley just to let them sneak some people out from there. But they had taken the liberty to charge a fee. Not bad. As expected of her beastie, it had her style. Chapter 1756, Treasure Hunt, 1. Lung Ruoshua was a person who pampered her magical beast. Therefore, no matter what outrageous things her magical beast had done, it was good. She could clearly see that when her precious beast took out those IOUs and explained the matter to her, some people's faces immediately turned ugly. However, these people did not have much to do with her, so she did not care about their feelings. As long as her magical beast was happy, that was all that mattered. My lovely master. My baby can also earn money for you. Baby blinked his silver eyes as tears welled up in his eyes and he sighed. Lung Ruoshua picked up Baby's fluffy little body and caressed its fur. Baby closed its eyes in enjoyment, causing the other beasts to be extremely jealous. Master, without me, there's no way they'll be able to get out of there. Ling Shi pouted and reminded him unhappily. It was also a hero. How did he get cast aside? Master, there's still me. I've also contributed. The referee also warned in an extremely dissatisfied manner. Good. You all did well. Lung Ruoshua coaxed them one by one. She was amused. Under such a serious situation, these little beasts actually got jealous. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ha! Little girl, with these little fellows, your life must be very lively. Uncle Long, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but laugh. Yup. Lung Ruoshua nodded helplessly. Arg. I've forgotten something very important. Suddenly, the baby cried out without caring about his image. Lung Ruoshua was astonished. What was wrong with her baby? Why are you so surprised? Master. Baby called out softly and then whispered into Lung Ruoksha's ear. Lung Ruoksha's expression turned odd after she heard that. Uncle Long, I'll have to trouble you to accompany them. Lung Ruoshua said helplessly. Earlier on, Baby actually told her that it had forgotten to search for the treasures in the valley and wanted to go back to look for them. Now that the men in black had returned to the bottom of the valley, how could she let it go back at ease? Although they could turn invisible, she was still worried. Therefore, she could only trouble Uncle Long, a senior with unfathomable strength, to help. All right. Even though Uncle Long did not know where this little girl wanted him to go with her beastie, he would not reject her request since Lung Ruoxue had saved so many of the beasties' lives in the endless sea. Ling, let's go. Baby called for two of the most important beastie in this operation, then jumped on Uncle Long's body and left the house invisibly. Upon entering the valley, Uncle Long couldn't help but ask curiously, "Little guys, you just came out of there safely, why did you go in again?" Uncle Long was very puzzled. No wonder the little girl asked him to come along. These little guys really made him feel uneasy. Uncle Long. To be honest, we're here for the good treasures in this valley, hee. I heard that these men in black were quite rich, so we decided to rob the rich to help the poor, and kill them all. Baby said with a smile, his little face full of pride. This is a good idea. However, do you know the location of the treasure? Uncle Long asked calmly. He should have guessed that the little girl's beastie was different, and now it seemed that it was true. Thanks, we don't know. Baby said with a silly smile. You dare to come in without knowing? Uncle Long was dumbfounded for a moment after hearing Baby's words. In fact, what he wanted to say was, "Why are you still so happy?" Those who didn't understand the situation would think that it had found a good treasure. I have to explore it. Baby said matter-of-factly. Uncle Long couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. Now he was even more certain that the little girl had made the right decision to let him accompany her in. Otherwise, this hot-headed little fox might have ruined things. Treasure. The men in black have already returned to the valley, and their leader's strength is on par with mine. So, even if we are invisible, we have to be careful, understand? After being stunned for a while, Uncle Long spoke earnestly. Otherwise, he was really worried that this cute little fox who liked to run around would cause trouble for him. If he couldn't bring these three little fellows back safely, how could he face Lung Ruoxue's request? Therefore, he had to keep a close eye on them. Uncle Long, don't worry. The feather can see through things, we will only enter the place it can see. No, we'll only enter places where it can see treasures. We won't enter places where it can't see through. The treasure reassured Uncle Long, but the cautious Uncle Long still didn't dare to let his guard down. Uncle Long followed behind the three little beasts, keeping only a few steps away from them. His eyes were also very vigilant of his surroundings. It was a pity that his divine sense couldn't be used here, otherwise, he would have known the situation further away. How is it, did you find it? After searching for a while, Treasure asked impatiently. Not yet. Feather's eyes glowed with a dim light as she stared at each door for a while. Then, she shook her head and walked to the next room. There were at least 800 to 1,000 rooms in the valley. Therefore, after looking through all the rooms one by one, you could not take it anymore. His eyes started to ripple. You quickly crouched down to rest. The black feathers on his body were already drenched in cold sweat. Seeing this, Baby walked to its side with a worried look. How are you? If you're too tired, we can go back. The baby was very considerate. Although it wanted to steal the good treasures in the valley, its companion's health was more important. If it tired you out while looking for treasures, it would feel guilty. I'm fine. It'll be fine after a short rest. You raised his head and said softly. In fact, the reason why he was working so hard was because he was eager to find a treasure to give to his master. Then have a good rest. Quickly eat this. Baby took out a divine power replenishing pill and handed it to you. I have one too. You can keep it for yourself. You declined politely. As a beastie's master, the thing he didn't lack the most was pills. After he finished speaking, he took out his own pill and ate one. Immediately, his complexion became much better. Uncle Long looked at the two little beasts in surprise as they casually took out pills to replenish their divine power. The spiritual chi flowing on the pills gave off a faint glow. With one look, one could tell that they were no ordinary pills. He immediately felt a little depressed. They were both beasts, but why was it that his life was so bitter, while these two little beasts could casually take out such good pills? He was a little jealous. However, If he knew that Lung Ruaksh's beastie was simply eating these divine pills as snacks, he would probably be so depressed that he would vomit blood. Chapter 1757, Treasure Hunt, 2. This pill is so high grade. Uncle Long exclaimed. Actually, he wanted to ask them where they got the pills, but he was too embarrassed to ask. Of course, it's made by my lovely master. How could it be ordinary? Baby said with a smug look. After he finished speaking, he ate the pill in his hand into his stomach as if it was a matter of course. He had already taken it out, so he couldn't put it back. The little girl made this? Uncle Long was a little surprised by this answer. However, what he couldn't accept even more was that the treasure had directly eaten the pill that he had taken out. This was really a waste of God's gift. That little fox was fine, so how could it directly eat such a good quality pill? One must know that during the battle between the two sides, any one of those pills was enough to change the outcome of the battle and determine the winner. But now, it was eaten by a lively little fox. Was there a situation more wasteful than this? Uncle Long almost went crazy. The pills my lovely master concocted are delicious, sweet and fragrant, making us love them more than we can let go. When we're free, we'll eat some to satisfy our appetite. The treasure was white again, and Uncle Long's face was full of tears. Uncle Long couldn't be jealous anymore. It seemed like comparing beasts to beasts would really anger beasts to death. Why was he living such a good life? Not only did he eat and drink well every day, but he also ate supreme-grade medicinal pills as if they were rice? He could no longer describe what he was feeling right now. He only knew that he had been dealt a huge blow. After a moment of silent contemplation, Uncle Long made a very difficult decision. He decided to cling onto Lung Ruashue, this thick and strong leg. He didn't ask for the same treatment as the little girl's beastie, as long as enough food was prepared for him every day. Recently, he had been fascinated by those delicious foods and didn't dare to imagine how he would live without those foods. After spending so much time with the little girl and the others, he did not dare to imagine how he would feel if he returned to that uninhabited oceanic trench. So, it was so painful. Uncle Long stood beside you and was remorseful. You, who had already rested, flew up into the air in high spirits. Then, he began to search room by room. After searching for a long time, they searched the houses in the valley like a carpet, but found nothing. Suddenly, Baby became a little depressed. How could this be? Could it be that those black-clothed men have moved the treasure away? Baby frowned and said unhappily, "Treasure, calm down. This valley isn't small, and we haven't finished looking. Don't be disheartened." You consoled. That's true. When Baby heard this, he immediately became energetic again. He looked at you with stars in his eyes and said, "You. Why don't we go to that middle-aged man's place and take a look? Maybe that miser has brought all the good treasures with him." The baby looked at them expectantly, but Uncle Long objected, "No. It's too dangerous there. If he finds us, we'll be in trouble." Uncle Long, well, be careful and not let him find out. You forgot that we are invisible. Baby persuaded, but in his heart, he was thinking, sigh. He was a person with a high cultivation. She just liked to be careful, unlike them, who like to mess around and let go. Treasure. That guy is a reverent god. Even if he can't see you, you'll still be in danger if he discovers an unfamiliar aura. So, I can't let you take this risk. Otherwise, if something happens to you, I won't be able to explain it to the little girl. Uncle Long said honestly. Then we'll just watch from the outside, right? We're not going in. Baby bargained. Thanks, all right then. However, you have to listen to me when we get there. Uncle Long knew that the little fox was a little stubborn, so he took a step back. Yes, yes. The three little beasts nodded their heads vigorously, extremely obedient. Uncle Long smiled helplessly at their cuteness. Then, he carried them in his arms and walked into a dark passage. That passage just happened to lead to where the middle-aged man was. This was also what he had heard from the black-clothed men. Therefore, it was not difficult for him to find where the middle-aged man was. Conceal your auras. Don't let him detect you. Uncle Long reminded them as they approached the entrance of the palace. Yes, the three little beasts replied and quietly lay in Uncle Long's arms. Uncle Long approached the entrance of the hall and pricked up his ears to listen to the movements inside. At the same time, he sighed. He didn't expect that he would have a day where he could eavesdrop. At this moment, in the palace where the middle-aged man was, he was sitting on the throne with a gloomy face. Below him were many black-clothed men kneeling. All of them had their heads lowered and their bodies were trembling. Bang! A divine power as thick as a baby's arm shot out from the middle-aged man's palm. The pillar in the hall shattered into two, and the fear in the black-clothed man's heart deepened. "Master, please calm your anger." The men in black said hurriedly. "Calm your anger? How do you expect me to calm down? Everyone in the secret chamber has disappeared, and you've found nothing, not a single clue. If you're so useless, what's the point of keeping you?" The middle-aged man's face was black as he said angrily. Initially, he was quite happy that he had reached an agreement with Lung Ruoxue. However, who knew that not long after he returned to the valley, his subordinates would report that the humans and beasts locked in the secret chamber had all disappeared. This haggardness immediately caused his expression to change. After all, this was not a small matter. If his lord found out about this, they would all be punished, and their lord's anger was definitely not something they could bear. Even if he was a reverent god, as long as he thought of his lord's means, he would feel afraid. The middle-aged man's reprimand rendered the men in black kneeling before him speechless, because they really couldn't find any clues. However, it was a good thing that the flower in the blood pool was safe and sound. Otherwise, they would probably be beheaded now. "Master, those rascals who sneaked into the valley and rescued the materials we locked up in the secret room were indeed very mysterious and impossible to guard against." Moreover, this subordinate investigated very carefully and there were no signs of human destruction in the secret room, so this subordinate concluded that they walked into the secret room openly. A black-clothed man who was closest to the middle-aged man said, because he was usually highly regarded by his master, he was the only one who dared to say such a thing at this time. However, when he said this, the guard's face turned ashen, because it meant that the guard had seriously failed in his duty. "You're saying that there's a traitor?" The middle-aged man said indifferently. "Master, this subordinate is innocent." As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, the man in black who was guarding the secret room immediately cried out, "Master, no one dared to betray him. What I mean is that the other party might have some secret technique to enter the secret room without being discovered." The black-clothed man guessed and looked at the black-clothed man guarding the secret room without a sound. At this time, they were all like grasshoppers on a vine. If one person made a mistake, everyone would be implicated. Therefore, it was not a wise choice to push out a scapegoat. Therefore, the most important thing now was to get rid of the suspicion of their dereliction of duty, not to hit them when they were down. Chapter 1758, Treasure Hunt 3, right? It definitely was. Otherwise, it's impossible that we didn't feel anything at all. Master is wise. We've never left the door of the secret chamber. If an outsider really did enter the secret chamber, we'll definitely be able to sense it. The black-clothed man guarding the secret room quickly said, and cast a grateful glance at the black-clothed man from before. He had thought that the man was trying to hit him when he was down. It seemed that he had misunderstood. Then who do you think has the ability to bring away those dying people and beasts in the divine realm without anyone knowing? The middle-aged man said with a headache. He knew that his subordinates were telling the truth, but the anger in his heart was stuck in his chest, and he had no way to vent it. This made him more and more frustrated. It's possible that some reclusive reverent god came to save them. A man in black said in a low voice. A hidden reverent god? Who would have such an ability? The middle-aged man furrowed his brows as he pondered. Actually, after the theft, the first person he suspected was that damned woman. However, he then recalled that Lung Ruoxue was waiting outside the valley to make a deal with him and had no time to commit a crime. Moreover, with her strength, it was impossible for her to sneak into the valley and rescue those people without anyone noticing. Hence, after some thought, he ruled out Lung Ruoxue as a suspect. But who else could it be if not Lung Ruoxue? He couldn't think of this person even after cracking his head. Could it be one of those family heads? The man in black thought for a moment. Other than them, he didn't think there was anyone else who had that kind of strength. However, it didn't seem possible for those family heads to rescue her without anyone knowing. Unless they had some unknown means. Go and contact our hidden chess piece and ask him to quickly tell us their location. The middle-aged man ordered his subordinates. Master, didn't his lord order that the hidden chess piece cannot be touched? The man in black looked at his master with some worry. He was afraid that his master would expose the existence of the hidden chess piece, which would anger his master. At that time, they would also be in trouble. This was the so-called one for all. One had to know that their fates were closely related to their master. We're in a critical period right now, so we can't care so much. However, be careful when you contact him. Don't let him be exposed. The middle-aged man was worried. The hidden chess piece was planted by his master. At this time, he was following the old men. Originally, he had no excuse to contact the hidden chess piece and ask him for their specific location. However, after this incident, he had a good excuse to find out their location from the hidden chess piece. In this way, he could find the people that the little girl wanted. This was really killing two birds with one stone. As soon as he thought of the people who had gone missing in the secret chamber, his mood would sink again. In addition, when you ask him if that hidden chess piece has any dissatisfaction, don't forget to remind him that he is also one of the people in charge of this secret realm. Now that such a thing has happened, he can't escape the blame. There's no need to say anything else. He'll understand. The middle-aged man added. Yes. The man in black received the order and immediately turned to leave this place of trouble. After he left, the middle-aged man's face became serious again, and his mind wandered without a word. The other men in black kneeled on the ground, not daring to move. Suddenly, the earth trembled and the entire hall shook. Seeing this, the middle-aged man stood up from his throne and loudly ordered, "Go and see what happened. Is there anyone attacking?" "Yes." The man in black who was kneeling on the ground quickly ran out after receiving the order. Not long after, the man in black who had left ran back in a panic. "Master, something big had happened. The blood cherry blossoms in the secret chamber are enraged." The man in black shouted. "What? How did this happen?" The middle-aged man's face turned pale. This was no small matter. This meant that, "Quickly go and take a look." The middle-aged man didn't dare to waste a single moment. After he finished speaking, he took the lead and ran out of the hall. The black-clothed men followed closely behind. In the blink of an eye, the entire hall was empty. After they left, Treasure and the other beasts swaggered in. "See if there's anything unusual here," Baby said excitedly. This was the middle-aged man's old nest. It had to walk around. You nodded. Then he started to search seriously. After a round of inspection, you did not find anything unusual in the hall. At this moment, a small door in the corner of the hall that was half the height of a man caught his attention. However, the door was foggy and he could not see anything clearly. "What's wrong with you?" Baby could feel that something was wrong with you and couldn't help but ask. "There seems to be something behind that door. Should we go in and take a look?" You suggested. "All right." The depressed baby quickly responded. Thanks, the three little beasts had just taken a step forward when they were stopped by Uncle Long. "No one is allowed to go. I can't even see anything there. What if there's danger?" Uncle Long said cautiously. He couldn't let these three little things take the risk. Not even a single hair. "Uncle Long, although I can't see what's there, my instinct tells me that there's something strange there. So, I think we should go in and take a look." You explained. In fact, he wanted to say that his intuition told him that there was no danger there. However, that would mean that Uncle Long would not allow them to go. "Uncle Long, if you don't enter the tiger's lair, you won't get the tiger's child. Since the men in black are not here, let's take this opportunity to go in and take a look. It's a rare opportunity, Baby advised. This is a good opportunity. Yu and Ling also looked at Uncle Long with anticipation. AI. Alright then. However, you're not allowed to run around. Otherwise, if you're really in danger and I can't save you in time, I won't be able to explain it to the little girl. Uncle Long said helplessly. We promise not to run around. Baby was the first to promise. Then he immediately rushed into the small door. Uncle Long quickly caught the slippery treasure, looked at it seriously and said, "I'll go in first." He would go in first. If there was any danger, he could help the three little fellows block it. All right, Treasure said in a low voice, a little depressed. In front of Uncle Long, it was useless. Uncle Long rubbed Baby's fur and walked through the small door with a chuckle. The three little beasts followed closely behind. The moment they entered, they were stunned. After that, she couldn't help but rub her eyes. It wasn't an illusion. The item was still there. Wah! Enrich! The baby cried out excitedly and directly jumped onto the top-grade crystal stones that were piled up in the center of the ground like a small mountain. The crystals were colorful and had all kinds of attributes. Uncle Long estimated that there were at least tens of thousands of them. Then, he turned his eyes to the other parts of the house. The room they were in wasn't very big, only 10 square meters in size. In addition to the top-quality crystals of various attributes that were randomly piled up like a small mountain in the center of the ground, there were 4 shelves around the room. The shelves were filled with dense storage rings. Uncle Long picked one up and scanned it with his divine sense. His eyes widened instantly. Then he picked up the storage rings on the shelves and checked them one by one. At the end, he didn't even know how to describe his feelings. This was because every item in this storage ring was worth more than the pile of top-grade crystals on the ground. Many of them were legendary and rare items that had long gone extinct. Even he, who thought he had seen a lot of things, was shocked speechless. If it wasn't for his strong self-control, he would have lost his normal state. However, when he saw the 3 little beasts jumping around on the pile of top-grade crystals in the center of the ground, the corner of his mouth twitched uncontrollably. Clearly, in the eyes of these 3 little fellows, the shiny top-grade crystals attracted their attention more. Uncle Long, so many top-grade crystals. We're going to be rich this time. Baby felt Uncle Long's gaze and said happily, "Treasure. These top-grade crystals are the least valuable of all the treasures here." Uncle Long's mouth twitched as he spoke the truth. "Oh, then Master will definitely be happy, but I like these crystals more." The treasure was obviously only interested in these shiny stones, and the other things were not of much use to it. The little girl knows how to concoct pills, so she'll definitely be happy to see those things. Uncle Long agreed. Right? Only when Master refines them into pills will they be of use to us. Baby nodded. Then it kept waving its little claws and swept all the storage rings on the shelf into its own storage space. Yu and Ling saw this and also helped. After clearing the small room, the 3 proud little beasts obediently followed Uncle Long and left the hall. "Now that your wish has been fulfilled, can we leave this valley?" Uncle Long asked immediately after they left the main hall. What he wanted to do now was to return the 3 little fellows with the huge treasure to Lung Ruoxue so that he would not have to worry about them. However, while wishes were beautiful, reality was incomparably cruel. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.